the right spot with all the right information, the right support, the right financial resources. So as Chief Hartman always tell you, we have the value, capacity, and public support. It's all come together, and here we are. I don't know why or how. We keep on asking that. What is the holdup? What are you reluctant to approve? So we'll take it to them on Thursday morning and see what that is, and I'll give you an update right afterwards on whether or not they gave us approval, ask for more information, or the like. Again, the EMS Advisory Council is a recommending body. It's not the final. So I've reached out, started reaching out to a couple commissioners, some of the county administrative staff, just to, what questions might you have? What is it that you are concerned about? And see if I can't allay some of those fears or concerns that are coming in there. I also sent you an email before this meeting. I apologize. It's not on the agenda, but as I got this stuff, I thought it was important. Again, I gave you all of our calls for service for the last 5 years, just us. Not the 50% that goes outbound to Delray, just what our calls are, just so you know, if anyone asks you what we'll be looking at. So I've provided that information to you. Some of the other stuff that I will get to you that I got from Glenn that I thought was interesting, that when we respond to our calls from our station, we're about, 4 to 5 minutes in response time. When they have to respond to us from somewhere else in Delray, it's 10 to 13 minutes. So as we discussed, and we told all the residents, when we add a second rescue vehicle that's fully staffed, that's just with one. So now we're going to have two, and that goes to the capacity issue to enhance that level of service we guarantee to the residents. So when we take over and start running, our response times are going to vastly improve. When we're looking at, 20-30% of our calls are taking 10 to 15 minutes. We're going to take that off the table and be responding directly from our station on site. Other than that, everything else is, going well. But Thursday's the moment when we start looking for that COCPN approval. We got our FDID number, which is that exciting. That's our federal fire department number. We got that. So all those little things that we can do and do now, we have. So we're well ahead of schedule. It's just now waiting for county approval.
Mayor, may I?
Yeah, one second, please.
Oh, sure.
Just to add to that, for the people that are watching, we average slightly under 700 calls per year. That's one. Two, the word big doesn't even describe how big Thursday's meeting is. I mean, it's really, I'm adding to what he already said. It's the culmination of 6, 7, 8 months worth of real to the guts work. So we're really looking forward to it. It should be a very good meeting. Yeah, go ahead, Peg.
Thanks, Mayor. I just wondered, Town Manager Laverty, in what form in what form is it coming back to us that there are some questions and hardships for us to keep the process going? And is it hearsay or scuttlebutt, or do we have written communication?
I think there's a little bit of hearsay, a little bit of misinformation. It's a little bit of the emergency management staff is only hearing from one side. So that's, again, part of our reaching out and having this EMS council is to present the real numbers, the real facts, the real figures. So on Monday, when Glenn and I had the opportunity to speak with the public safety director and started talking about what we've done, what kind of commitments we made, there is really no plan B. They wanted to know, well, what if this doesn't work? Well, it has to work. We've amended the charter. It's got to work. It's our right to have this service under statute. And then we started talking a lot about the statistics, the call statistics, which really leveraged into the conversation our capacity that, when we do get mutual aid agreements in some fashion or form, which we're working on with all of our neighbors, we will, if we no longer have to handle 50% of those outbound calls, handling some calls outbound, we have that capacity. We could be a very valuable partner in some fashion, especially to our adjacent communities on the island. We have that ability to do that. So I think they started hearing from us, and they were pleasantly surprised that, wow, okay, you guys can do this. You put thought into it. And again, those that are going through this process, this pilot program that we're going through to get licensed has never been used. A municipality hasn't asked to form a fire department in 32 years. I think everybody is just trying to work their way through the dark a little bit.
In the event we do not, quote, pass, don't get a positive response, we'll obviously find out what are the issues that prevented us from getting that positive response, and then we will correct those issues. And whatever it takes to correct the issues, we'll do. And we'll continue to go back until all of the negatives are taken care of. So whatever it takes, we'll do it. And we'll get through the process.
Got it. And I wondered, has it been communicated from us that we also have not had backup in case of our trucks being out? We often haven't had a backup truck sent here in a timely fashion. That's been part of this.
Yeah,
so that all the negatives have been placed on the table to the other side, whoever is objecting.
that'll definitely be communicated and will be.
A case in point to some of them just not either fully getting through the COCPN just yet is they asked us about vehicles. And I said, well, we get 2 from the contract. So the ladder truck and the current rescue will have, we're getting yet another rescue, type 1 rescue, which we've ordered, and we're getting another ladder truck to, so they were like, oh, and I was like, yes. And we'll be, staffed to handle two squads going out in response, 2 response teams. So they were like, oh, okay. So like, they're starting to get the picture of what we're building, that we're not just trying to keep 2 pieces of equipment and a couple of people and trying to do that we're actually have thought out how exactly we're going to do this. So,
yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions down here? No. Anything from you? Where are you, in Boston now, or on the Cape?
I still am on the Cape, where it's a little cooler than it is down there. But definitely enjoying it and glad to join on Zoom. The only question I have for Town Manager Laverty. So what you're saying is that given we've done everything we can do to position for approval with the county, and you reviewed all the other tasks and elements to the project, which is apparently going well. So right now, as of you see things today, you don't see, and so I'm just trying to confirm that there are any surprises that might come out that you're a little worried about.
nothing that's within our control. I don't know what might be creating concerns for other parties and what their concern might be politically. Technically, we've got a great consultant team. The community has given us 92% approval. We've gotten the money to do it. We've changed our fund balance. We've done everything we can do to take the next step, and we're ready to take those next steps. So it's going to be either a little bit of fear of the unknown. And then, there's always that possibility that there could be some concern out there that other communities may want to do this, which then breaks apart the current system. But I don't know. But I guess that could be a driver to some of that.
It appears as though there may have been some misinformation that has been fed to them. And in the event that that is correct, part of our role is to make sure that we counter that with facts and figures. So they see the deal. Okay.
So I agree with the mayor that misinformation probably is our major issue, aside from the various tasks at hand and getting the approval from the county with the COCPN. But it just clearly, from this point of view, I think the residents can feel comfortable that we're on track, things are going well, and we're going to make history that no fire department has been established in 32 years. It's really something. So I'm glad that you got a great team organized and that they're producing well, Marshall. Thank you.
Yeah, just, the difficult thing is, as Marshall has said, this is all new to the people that have to make the final decisions. So it's going to go slowly, and they're going to be very conservative, and they'll be continuing to ask questions. And it's our role to make sure we satisfy them, which we will do. Okay,
Mayor, could I just, oh, sorry.
let
there's
everyone
one
go,
more
then we'll
thing.
go back.
Yes, sir.
Or Vice Mayor, go.
So who's going to the meeting?
So Glenn next to me, our legal counsel, Glenn Joseph, Tom McCarthy, myself, the mayor, Teresa, Eric, our new management analyst in the manager's office, Chief Hartman. So we're going to go and Dr. Cohen, which is another big thing that, hey, our medical director's been on board the whole time.
You should have asked who's not going.
Yeah.
I know. Are we going to
So,
outnumber them?
Anybody else? So yeah, we're gonna go in big numbers. We had that whole group discussed. We went over what we want to present to them. We have a very limited time, think 5 to 10 minutes. And I got to do that in 5 to 10 minutes. I got a lot to say, so I got to talk fast. But we'll get it done. And we've decided on how we're gonna make the presentation and showing ourselves in support and force. I think they'll understand the seriousness and our commitment to this.
Will the meeting be video recorded?
I'm not sure. I don't know that they do that. I think they just do a regular minutes. But it's I imagine it would have to be open to the public. It is. So it's at the Emergency Operations Center, 20 South Military, West Palm Beach. So I mean, it's open to the public 9 a.m. on Thursday.
And so was this a regularly scheduled meeting that you got onto the agenda for? So, so let's say in the unlikely event, they delay it or whatever, when would be the next meeting?
So the EMS council meets monthly. We submitted our entire package June, right before the 4th of July weekend on a Thursday. Teresa drove up to West Palm, dropped off our COCPM package because we wanted the July meeting date in anticipation that we just don't know. So if there is a problem or a question, we go back to August meeting, then meet the commission meeting in September before the October date or the date for the COPCN renewal. So all of the other municipal fire departments are going through this process, but mostly renewal in nature. We're a pilot program because I didn't know where we fit in this group, because as we recall, they only do the licensing every 6 years. So this is our 6-year call window, because otherwise they would have to give us a different time to do it. So we're following, so they don't have to change anything. We're just working through their process. And our goal was to get it to them as early as possible. We got it to them in June. They agreed to review it in July. So we have that meeting. And if it misses, we have at least another month to hit the August meeting should something.
Oh, if they have follow-up questions or something.
I don't know what else.
Right.
Everything that they've asked for in the application we provided. The things we can't provide is who's on our team. Well, we got to hire everybody, but that's because it's a pilot program. You have to give us that runway. They recognize that. We've everything else is there. We gave them stuff from our insurance broker. I mean, it's covered. We've got everything in place. So referendum stuff, information, language, medical directors, licensures and approvals, org structures, pay schedules. I mean, everything's in place. So my concern, I mean, maybe that's better that it's not going to be a technical issue. Then people are going to have to say why, right? We're comfortable with it being a union operation, and I'll say it on record that we're comfortable and prepared that IAFF's eventually going to be the union support group for that. So I don't see why the union would be concerned if we create another 24 union members and union jobs here. I don't see that that should be an issue. So.
And then they've had the council has had that material since Teresa dropped it off. So they've had a month to review the materials.
Correct. And there's some new folks that are in the review process. So there's a lot of new folks engaged. So I think we'll kind of stumble a little bit through it, but they asked for some additional information. We gave it to them. The EMS team is taking this to Virginia Baker today to go over it with her and scheduling and this and that. And the county administration has been very supportive to us. So I hope that continues. I would imagine that continues. We've reached out to Commissioner Weinroth. I've reached out to Commissioner Bernard just to see if he might have any issues. we're covering all the bases. So somebody's got to tell us why they don't want us to do something. We have the capacity, the support, and create the value. So I don't know what's amiss, but they're going to have to tell us at some point what that is.
Well, I think it's also, we have one more month too. If they have some follow-up questions, we can, resolve any of that in the next follow-up meeting. So. Okay, well, I look forward to hearing how it goes.
Yep. Good.
Thanks.
Peg?
Thanks, Mayor. Sorry, I didn't mean to
It's okay.
cut in front of our lovely Vice Mayor. I just wondered if it would be of assistance to have the mayor attend.
Yes.
Okay, great. I
Yeah.
didn't hear the name,
Yeah.
but I think he's been took the ball and ran with it on this, so that's great. And he can represent our commission. And secondly, great. Thank you. And secondly, to remind everyone, I know we're not Broward County, but Broward County is currently still working with 13 small towns such as us, all kinds of different variables of these towns, many in West Broward, also establishing their own fire departments. And they have a different set of county rules, but it's not like we're the only guy in the state doing this. And they're succeeding. They're doing well. Thank you.
Okay, any more discussion? Everybody comfortable? Okay, thank you. Let's move on. As most of us are aware, the state has decided to put a bill out and signed a bill by the governor for the recertification program that includes both, well, not both, it includes recertification for the buildings as well as requiring reserve studies be done for the buildings and reserve financial accounts for the buildings. So Jeff is going to take us through the difference in the state's program and our program and what adjustments we might have to make. So we'll turn it over to Jeff.
Good afternoon, Commission. Did it again. Good afternoon, Commission, Mayor, Vice Mayor. So we good? Okay. The state, surprisingly, to me, unannounced, just came out with Senate Bill 4D. And I'm going to review what that bill is. And then there's a few talking points in comparison, but this presentation is primarily about what's in the bill. And I'm prepared to answer any questions about how it affects us, because through Marshall's direction and working with Len Rubin, we actually already have the ordinance written, ready to go to implement based on what we've done, looking at both. And of course, this conversation here, this discussion, so that we can then take some direction from the commission as far as how, you want to tackle it. But we're prepared. We're actually going to be ready more than likely for the August 2nd meeting to present an ordinance. Okay, so they call these milestone inspections. They're not a recertification, they're milestone inspections. And they're essentially going to be for condos and co-ops that are 3 stories and 4 units or more. Now, it specifically excludes single family, 2 family, and 3 family dwellings that are, 3 or less story. What does that mean for Highland Beach? Well, for Highland Beach, it basically means that we're going to add 3 more buildings than what we originally were doing with threshold. So we really only have 3 more buildings. So it seems like what we were doing was working really well, because we only had to add 3 according to the state. And the good news for us, and it should happen by the end of the year, that DBPR is working with the Florida Division of Condominiums, and they're going to be providing the actual list to us of the buildings that qualify, which is really nice. Okay, so just a couple of new definitions, and one of them is the milestone inspection, which is talking about the structural inspection of a building. And I'm just giving you like a partial definition up there. It does not include with them electrical. We are still keeping the electrical because it's important. And what we've discussed at some of the BOAF meetings is that in many instances, you can have a situation where you get into a phase 2 inspection, which we're going to get to, and that could end up somehow including some electrical anyway. And then one of the things that the state did for us was actually define substantial structural deterioration, which is really nice because it's laying it right out there so that we have some more consistency amongst the engineers. The frequency, if you're within 3 miles of a coastline, which we are, we're looking at buildings that are 25 years of age, and you're going to get an inspection every 10 years thereafter. If you are greater than 3 miles, which really doesn't apply to us, so this is more informational for you, they're going to just bump that to 30 years and every 10 years. So our ordinance that we already put in place was pretty much spot on, other than the fact for the older buildings, we were going with the 7 years for those buildings that were greater than 40 years of age. So there's a deadline. And this deadline just happens to line up exactly with the deadline that we already had in place for all of our buildings. And all qualified buildings have to be completed by December 31st, 2024. We were doing it on about a 2-year, 2.5-year rollout, or actually like a almost 3-year rollout. And this has cut it down to match with us. So for us, with buildings that are farther away, they're looking at buildings that have a certificate of occupancy issued equal to or before 1992 on July 1st. But for us, it's buildings that were before July 1st, 1997. Okay. The procedure. Now, the building official issues the notice of required inspection. That has to be sent in certified mail. But we also hand deliver it here. So we document that we're actually hand delivering it and who hand delivered it and that we gave it. So we're going to have no problem complying with that. But what the state has done that we didn't do, and to be honest, ours is better. I'm just being honest. Okay. They've separated into 2 phases, phase 1 and phase 2. What we were doing is we're saying, hey, this is when your due date is, and we notify you 365 days in advance. Here, once we notify you, you have 180 days to do the phase 1 inspection. And that phase 1 inspection, as you're going to see, is mostly just visual. And that phase 1 inspection will then let us know whether or not a phase 2 inspection is required, which is more invasive. So it's just a visual examination. It's got to be performed by a licensed architect or engineer. So for some of the buildings that are not threshold buildings, they don't have to have a special inspector. They can have an architect or a regular engineer do the inspection. But again, for threshold, we're maintaining that because that's consistent with the state statutes. Again, it's all visual, and they're going to declare anything that they see has substantial structural deterioration, which is already defined, and that determines whether the phase 2 is required. Now, phase 2 inspection is performed if any substantial structural deterioration is identified by phase 1. So they're identifying what it is and then saying, now you need to do a phase 2. The problem with the statute is in line number 2, they didn't give a time frame to submit a phase 2 inspection. But after discussing this with Len and Marshall, we decided that we're going to give them 180 days to get the more destructive testing done. And that would actually be very consistent with what we already have in place, which is where we're giving people 365 days to get everything completed. Now, phase 2 may involve destructive testing, and this is normally done during the restoration process. And this is where we're having some difficulty with the process in place by the state. You just can't go and start. There may be some isolated incidents where someone has a building that's in really good shape. They do a phase 1, but they say, hey, you know what? We need a phase 2 of these 3 columns in your parking garage. At that point, they can shore them up and do some drilling and then provide a phase 2 report and say, yep, everything's good. We don't need a restoration, just fill the holes and move on. I think that's going to be a rarity. The majority of the phase 2 inspections are done, especially if you're familiar and your buildings have gone through this, It's done during the restoration process when you already have a permit anyway. So when they set up, they're setting up these inspections and restoration in lifts where they might be looking at on a 12-story building, looking at on the outside, for example, starting from unit 101 on the balcony and going all the way to 1201. And they're going to set up. And what they're going to do is as they're coming down, they're going to chip away, do the level 2 inspection, make the recommendation, make the repair, and then move down to 1101. Repeat all the way down. So it may take 3 months to get half of a building done. It may take 6, may take a long time for them to work their way around. So Len Rubin and I are working, and really Len is, we've kind of described it to him. We need the verbiage that give us the ability to have the flexibility to allow these phase 2 inspections to literally come in a time frame, in a phase, because it makes sense. The way that they wrote the state statutes, it really doesn't take into account how things actually happen. Because you cannot expect someone to go in and rip apart a building to do a phase 2 inspection and then leave it completely exposed with exposed rebar and say, okay, now you got to find someone to fix it. It just doesn't work like that. That phase 2 is normally done at the same time. So I just want to make sure that we have a clear understanding of that. Simple stuff. After acceptance of the phase 2 inspection, anything that's found during the phase 2, they have 365 days to complete that portion, which is really important because some of these restorations may take 18 months. They may take 2 years. So if they're giving us the phase 2 inspections, for the east side of the building, well, now they have 365 days to complete those, but it's not going to matter because they're already starting the restoration process. So I think we should be in pretty good shape as far as this is concerned, giving the 365-day, as long as we have the ability to bring these in. Reports have to come from the architect and engineer, just like what we already have. They have to identify unsafe or dangerous conditions, identify any areas that have to require further inspection, and then recommend remedial or preventative repair for damage, and so on and so forth. Okay. Now this is going to be probably more of a shock to the condominium associations. The architect or engineer is going to just give this to the condo association or the co-op and the building official. But the association has to give a copy of this report, regardless of the findings, to each of the owners. And then they have to post an inspector prepared summary. You can't make your own summary. It has to be an inspector prepared summary somewhere in a conspicuous location on the property. And if you have a website, you have to put it up on your website. So you are airing your laundry, so to speak. So whether it's a local enforcement or board of county commissioners, we can adopt ordinances, and this is where it gives us the flexibility, all right, to require timelines and penalties, and repairs must be commenced within 365 days after receiving the report. So again, the only issue we had is the time frame between phase 1 and phase 2. And if an association fails to submit proof to the local enforcement agency, and here's the part where they're definitely different than our ordinance. The local enforcement agency must review and determine if the building is unsafe for human occupancy. So that's where we're taking a little bit of ownership now that we weren't before. Before we were handling this more administratively, but now we would have a more active role if we have non-compliance. And that is it.
And just to let you know, before the meeting, I did send you our latest copy that Len had produced with Jeff. It just doesn't have the clarification on the phase 2 and the definition of allowing phasing of phase 2 with construction restoration.
Right. That's the
But you
part.
have a copy just so you can look at it. There's no action today, so I don't think you have to read it like right now, but just over the next week or so, take a look at it. If you have any other comments or concerns, let us know. So on August 2nd, we could bring for first read.
First of all, thank you for doing all that work. We appreciate it. Before I pass it around for comments, let me just say a couple of things if I may. First of all, this was passed with great haste by our representatives up in Tallahassee. Second of all, I think it's an atrocious piece of work. Obviously, I don't like it. Second of all, the two additional or accompanying pieces with it, I've already spoken about, so I won't bore everybody on it. So let's just stay focused on this piece. I think it's going to be adjusted in time, but right now it's the law. So we have to do what you've done and we need to make adjustments to ours. But for those that are listening, this will probably change again, as well as the two accompanying pieces that go along with it. With that said, I'm going to pass it around for comments. I'll start over on my far right with Evelyn, but recognize that, yeah, we got to do what you're doing. Okay, because it's the law. Okay, Evelyn.
My initial reaction was very similar to Doug's, which is, this is what happens when you don't think about what you're passing, that you just react and don't take into account how you actually can put this into effect and what the downsides are going to be when you don't plan things out properly. I agree. We did a much better job on ours because we actually thought about it and thought about how we could implement it. Talking about 180 days, I can tell you it can take you 180 days to negotiate a contract just to get somebody in to do the work, because I just did that. It takes way longer than anybody ever expected it to take. So then you're already behind the 8 ball because you haven't been able to get your contract in place. There are only so many companies out there with the ability to do the work on these major buildings. They don't understand what they're doing. And never mind the financial aspects of it and giving people 2 years. Buildings have no reserves and you're giving them 2 years to come up with tens of millions of dollars in reserves is a little eye-raising, to say the least. I don't think they thought that out. In the meantime, that having been said, thank you for helping us get to the point where we're way ahead of where they are and where we can, in fact, put ours together with theirs and be ahead of most places. And I think Doug's right, that once they see how this doesn't work, they're going to have to go back and adjust. I think we're still going to have the recertification programs, which I think are a good thing by and large. I think just some of the onerous sections of them need to be softened somewhat. But thank you. I know this has been a lot of work for you.
Just to add before I pass it on, I had lunch yesterday with our representative, Mike Caruso, and he suggested also that it was done in great haste, needs fine tuning, will get fine tuned. And of course, when Peggy is up there representing us, we know that she's going to get it adjusted as well, right? Okay, I'll turn it over to you, Peg.
And Mayor, just so you know, this is going to be reviewed and it is intended to be adjusted by the Florida Building Commission. So this is still going to be an ongoing process, but this is initially what they threw out with the expectation that there will be some refinement at the
Great.
Florida Building Commission level.
Super. Okay. But again, redundant, this is the law. We've got to do it for the time being. Peg, it's all yours.
Thanks, Mayor. This past week, both the Sun Sentinel and Palm Beach Post ran a story how throughout the state on the coastal communities, some condos are being converted to rental apartments. Do you foresee that occurring here? And how do you feel that will affect our general growth in Highland Beach? If I could add, there's one poster child. There's a building in Boca Raton where one person is holding out and selling, and that person is elevating this to a level of different attention because of that focus.
Well, I wouldn't want to speculate on something that I'm not familiar with that
Right,
story.
understand.
But I also know that any type of change in use would have to go through the development process and planning and zoning to make sure that the use is consistent with what we have. And there's another component of that with the building because again, it depends. There's a big difference in how you set up a fire alarm system in a hotel where people are transient, they're in and out versus long-term where you live somewhere and you're going to be there for an extended period of time. All right. So I think there's a lot more, but I really can't speculate on that because I don't know how that would work for us
Understand.
right now.
And working with our mayor and our staff and all, have you had any feedback on the state regulations versus our policies? What are you hearing from the public or the condo presidents and so forth as far as the changes related to Highland Beach or this area?
So surprisingly, I haven't had one phone call at all concerning the state changing. And I think because people are already geared up and ramped up for what we already had in place and they were aware of it. They were notified. They got a nice letter from the commission signed by everyone. So I think they're already ramped up. What's going to change is now when I roll this, as I'm rolling it out under the new rules, I have to change my letter. And now once they receive my letter, instead of 365, now they have 180 days, but that 180, again, that's just for the visual phase 1 inspection to be complete. And then this phase 2, they have another 180 days, which will then give them the full year. But in order to get to that point, within a year, they're going to have to pull a permit and be in the restoration process.
Got it. Understand that. Well, that's good. No one's called yet. We want to clarify, weren't we the first community in the state to pass? We were okay. We were second. Oh, Marshall.
I would believe we're the first to get a building passed through the process. We issued the first certificate, I believe.
We
What?
actually did issue a certificate already.
Yeah.
What building was that?
Yeah, really.
I'd rather not say.
Oh.
No. It was Dalton. Down in Boca Highlands.
do you know?
It was Dalton. Dalton was the first one.
We were fortunate. We were in the process of having our balconies worked on. So the engineer was there. We had a little rough time running down an electrical engineer. So that took us some time, but we were in the midst of having work done anyway. So it was pretty simple to get it all done at the same time.
Continuing to put Highland Beach on the map. Thank you, Mayor.
Yep.
And Marshall. I think that's it for me, unless just one further comment, Mr. Remus, if you could just say how regarding your professional opinion on this as with regard to your department and the workload and so forth. Is there a heavily advanced workload for this, or you'll be able to roll with it?
No, we're going to have 53 buildings and that's it. And we're sending out the letters, they're rolling in. There's going to be a slightly bigger workload because of the way the state is doing it with the phases. So I have to change the software setup a little bit to compensate for that as things come in phases. But for us, it's really not a significant workload. It's really more on me, which, you know, I'm happy to do because as they roll out now, if they all start rolling in at the same time, I'll be a little taxed, but I can always, you know, pull in cap government to help me out as needed. So we have that hybrid system so that, you know, we can just pull them in as needed.
Okay, great. Yeah, CAP has been amazingly great. Thank you so much.
Have a question. Somebody from one of the buildings in town that had just done a lot of renovation work over the last 3-4 years. Their ex-manager told me that they didn't need to get the town to come out and do inspections because their engineer did inspections and therefore they didn't need them by the town. And I said, that doesn't sound right to me. So perhaps I will give you the name later and you can check and make sure that all the inspections were in fact done properly.
Well, if it's a building that recently did restoration work, one of the things that we do is we've tightened up on that since I came on board with how we operate, because a lot of them are under the impression, oh, no, they're engineers coming out, but they don't understand they still require inspections by us. And we still have to sign off and catalog and go through all of those special inspections.
It wasn't all that recent. It was since you've been here and they didn't seem to think that they needed to have that done.
Well, we'll take care of that.
Maybe. they
Yeah,
need
you
to-
just hand that over and we'll take care of that. We'll make sure that things are done the right way.
Thank you.
You got it.
Okay. John, on to you.
Okay, I do have a few questions. This is such an important activity for the town, for all these towns. First of all, Jeff, if you could, I'm sure you already have, but the slides, a hard copy of the slides, if you could make sure that Renelda has it so she can put it in my box. I really want to study these, and I've tried to read through the documents that were sent out by the town manager. As I understand it, phase one is basically just look, see, check, a visual inspection. And we're supposed to have all the buildings that are identified and apparently by the state or county, not necessarily by us, that have to have a phase one complete by December 31st of 2024. Then they have 180 days after that date to resolve it with a contract. So again, it just seems like, I agree with Commissioner David, we might have an issue here with compliance in that there's no penalties here yet that I see, unless the building's going to fall down. But if people just can't get a contract for whatever reason, they can't get the contractor, they try and they give you a lot of motion, a lot of word salad, an expression, I guess, that's in use these days. What's your recourse, really? If the building is in decent shape and it's not falling down, they're having problems trying to get contractors. I could see this devolving into a mess, no?
So our existing ordinance, the component for enforcement does not change. We still have that ability. We also have the ability to work with and give extensions if needed, but they also need to show to us that the extensions that they need are legitimate, and it can't just be because they're stalling because of finances, But in this case with the state, the first one that's needed is a visual inspection to determine, and that's, it's not invasive, it's a quicker inspection, and those you can typically get out quicker. So they have 6 months to get that taken care of under the state statute. If they can't do that, then we can have some issues where we can but we do have enforcement that we already had in place under our original recertification ordinance.
Okay, so in this visual inspection, if you see, chunks of concrete are broken away, or there's leakage going on with some pipes or whatever, and it's not necessarily threatening the structural integrity of the building, the focus will still be on, yeah, you should go ahead and repair that, but you're not necessarily going to fail, correct?
That is going to be up to the determination of the engineering firm who's doing the inspection. They are still required to describe the condition of the building and prescribe a method of repair and a time frame for repair, but also, so under this ordinance, or I'm sorry, under the state statute, all items that were identified have to be completed within 365 days.
Yeah, no, that's where, again, you can give the extensions if you have a credible, responsible kind of action on a part of the building, the HOA or the association. But again, I fear that, you're going to have the excuse of, I can't find any contractors or special inspectors. They're going to be a rare bird that we must rely on. So anyways, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that rolls out. The age of the building, as I saw in the documents, suggests that, yeah, if if there was a occupancy permit issued, then that's a good starting point. That's the birthday, so to speak, of the building. But where that doesn't exist, it's kind of your assessment of what a reasonable date should be based upon what evidence you might have. Do you see that being an issue for us as a town, that we have many buildings without a birthday?
So that list was already put together. I only had, because of the state statute that was passed, I only had to add 3 more. Now, again, the DBPNR is going to be coming out with an official list with the dates for us to work off of. Until then, we already have our own. I've been using the Palm Beach County tax assessor's office for that to get basically dates of birth of the different buildings. And then if you recall, what we did is I also penalized buildings that were on the ocean 3 years, so that we can put them in an order that made more sense, so that we can prioritize the buildings that have more of an exposure, especially when you're right on the ocean. So I'm not seeing an issue with that at all, because DBPNR is going to come out with a list for us eventually. Hopefully, what they're saying by the end of the year. Until then, we're just moving forward with the list we already had that is pretty solid.
And DPBR stands for what?
Department of Business and Professional Regulation, and there's a division there that's I think it's the Department of Condominiums or something like to that effect. They're working together.
Okay. All right. I guess then, yeah, this is going to be an interesting rollout. My other concern will be, what about not the building per se, but the adjoining garages, or maybe carports that are, a problem? Are they still going to be part of, quote, the building?
Well, that's something that we have to look at. Well, that's something that the engineer is going to have to look at, because in many instances, these carports are attached to and are an integral component. You saw that on Surfside. Okay. Issues in the parking garage, whether it's below or alongside or out on the pool deck, obviously affected what happened to the structure itself. I know that not everything, it's going to take a long time before they have an official cause for that, but everything that has been released so far is pointing to, issues in those surrounding areas. So if it's part of the structure, if it's separated and it's a completely separate building, I'm not seeing where that is included in the state statute or even our ordinance.
Right. Okay.
If it's a standalone parking garage.
Okay, I understand. Thank you very much. I appreciate, again, the communication, the work, and the slides. Thank you.
All yours, Natasha.
Just a quick question, like the visual inspection, is that an added inspection compared to what our program has?
We are still working administratively. All the inspections are coming from the engineering firm, the qualified engineering or architectural firms that are going to be performing the phase 1 and phase 2 inspections. We are not going, the only inspections that the municipality that we will be doing as a building department will be once a permit is pulled. We will be out there working with their special inspectors together as they do the inspections.
But I thought the state law, it said a visual inspection, and isn't it by the, who's supposed to do that visual inspection?
Phase 1 and phase 2, these visual inspections are all done by the architectural and engineering firms.
Okay, and is that, is the phase 1 visual inspection required today of the Highland Beach?
It is now. Yeah.
But was it before? Is this an added inspection that we didn't have before?
We required an inspection by an engineering firm saying, okay, this is the condition of the building. These are the major concerns. This is the time frame they have to be completed by. That's what we were looking for. And then once we complete and they pull a permit to make those repairs, then we can close it off and give them their certificate. What the state was doing is now just putting those inspections in phases, calling one just, I think they're trying to ease it in, saying, well, if you get a visual phase 1 and the architect or engineer says you don't need a phase 2, then you're finished. If they say you do need a phase two, well, then that's obviously going to require restoration of the building or some type of repair. So then it goes to phase two, but they're just kind of separating them where ours was just one inspection report that we were looking from the engineering firm.
In layman's terms, we wanted one inspection, challenging the engineer to determine the safety of the building. In order to do that, it's got to do things like tap testing. You can't just do a visual look.
It's much more than a visual.
Right. So this idea, and again, I'm a layman, he's much more of an expert. I don't know how somebody can just walk
Right.
around the building, take a
Right.
look and say, hey, guys, you look good today.
Right,
Don't worry about anything.
right.
I don't get that at all. He's got to be doing some tap testing.
Right.
You know, of course, on a balcony, you can take a look and usually on the corners and on the edges, you can start to see some deterioration first. And that would then say, okay, you better do some tap testing. But you know, on columns and on walls, on exteriors, got to do more than just look,
Right,
I think.
right,
Now, he knows a lot more than I do. Okay.
right.
But you know, as an official, I don't know that he can actually say that, no, you can't just look and you need to go beyond that. But I wouldn't be comfortable in my building as the president of the building to say our building is safe because an engineer just looked. I would require them to do beyond looking. Okay.
And Highland Beach is requiring them to
Highland
do
Beach
beyond
requires
just
the
looking.
engineer to state that this building is safe, structurally sound. Now, that engineer has to determine what he or she has to go through in order to make that statement. I don't think any engineer would make that statement with only visually looking at your building. I think they would go beyond just a visual look.
Among other things, what happens is they walk around with a golf club. And even when they tap with a golf club and they listen for hollow sounds and they look for cracks and they look on balconies, for example, they look up at the ceiling to see if its crack is coming down from the unit above. Even with all of that, when they start to do the work and they start pulling up tiles, they have no idea how far these
Right.
cracks go. They have no idea how far the
Right.
bad rebar goes.
Right.
None of that is really knowable until you start pulling things up and getting further into it.
100% correct. But that's not telling you if your building is structurally sound. Those are the things you find when you start getting into the repair process.
Right.
Mhm.
So
But if visually,
I don't think this visual thing is worth a damn.
okay.
Okay. I can just.
So
be blunt.
okay, so because Highland Beach is saying that the engineer has to say that it's structurally sound, we don't. do
I don't
any-
buy
We
that.
don't do the visual distinction or anything like that.
No, but that's what the state law now.
Mayor,
So we have no choice but to go under the guidelines of the state law.
But we can go more rigorous,
That's
what I
but
was
not
gonna
less
say.
rigorous.
Yes, we can.
So are we, so
If-
we are going more rigorous? Is
If
that
we
what
as a
you're saying?
commission say we want more than just that, we can do that.
right. that's
Which
what I
is
was
kind
going
of
to
what
suggest.
our,
That's where we are right now.
that's right, that's
Yeah.
where we are right now.
Yeah, so that's what we have to discuss.
And so this visual inspection is not an added inspection because it's within that inspection where we're getting the report from the engineer. It-
Right. Instead of us getting one report, now we're getting two. But again, you'll get to see once Len does his legalese, trying to straightening out this phase two inspection timing process. You're going to see the majority of what we already put in place is in place. We're just making adjustments to comply with the state, but we could still choose to be more restrictive, just like we're every 7 years for a building greater than 40 years.
Right.
But the state says, well, it's every 10. We go, well, no, we want 4 or 7.
We're on 7.
So is that an added expense then for the building to give the 2 reports instead of 1? Is that, doesn't matter,
Yeah,
it's the way it
Well,
is?
yeah, for example, we might want to require the second inspection, regardless of what the first inspection says.
Hmm.
I don't know what Len has worked out. We'll see what he says. But personally, I wouldn't be satisfied with just a visual look-see in my building.
Neither
And
would
how-
I.
Uh-huh. And So how is, I know we have one building already, but how are the other buildings going? Are they progressing along?
Many others are notified, but I haven't had any stating that they're ready or sending any reports. So I've only had one building that submitted the reports and one building that eventually, after some back and forth, received the certification for the restoration. And that's it,
You're doing it.
just Dalton.
And no uproar of complaints of going through that? They're just plugging along, I guess. Okay.
So we'll wait to see what it looks like next meeting. Okay, thank you very much. Also, I have a president's meeting coming up on the 26th at 4 o'clock. If you're available, I'd like you to come and make a presentation to the condo presidents about this. Shorter version, if you would, just bringing them up to date on what's going on.
That's not a problem.
That'd be great. Thank you.
And that's the day and time again?
26th.
Oh, okay. Should be no problem.
It's at 4 o'clock.
Yep, no problem.
And commissioners are invited. Okay, and it'll be on video, so anybody out there watching, you're more than welcome to watch it. Okay, any more questions? Can we move on? All satisfied? Okay. Let's move on to new business. Need to approve to authorize our town manager to sign off on $53,513 with Maxwell Woodman for engineering services on lift station number 3. That's for rehab. It's to be found on page 10. You're with us. Thank you. You want to take us through it?
Sure. This has been on this in the CIP for a couple of years to have our lift stations raised, the ones that are below elevation of A1A. So this is, as we're moving forward, this lift station and next year lift station 2 to be raised with the resilience, coastal resilience board that we're belong to.
Right.
So,
Okay. Any questions? You want to start with that one?
Sure, I think this is a great idea because having been to New Orleans and found where they found that because their pumping stations were underwater, they were useless.
correct.
Yeah.
Therefore, it behooves us to make sure anything that needs to function is above the water line.
Right. And no excess water's getting and
I'm all for it. This is a no-brainer as far as I'm concerned. Thank you.
Okay, Peggy?
That was my question. So thank you, Evelyn.
Mhm.
I'm good. This is a great thing to be doing.
Okay. John, anything?
Yeah, this is for lift station number 2 that was done in 2023 for 150,000. This is 3 for 2022. What about the other lift stations? We have 6 of them, as I understand it, correct?
we do. And we have scheduled for next year to raise lift station number 2. 2 and 3 are the only stations that are below grade, below A1A. And if we have a rain event, water stays on top of them. So those are the only 2 that need to be raised.
But you do
Stations.
have something planned for lift stations 4, 5, 6, no? In the future?
Actually, not raising. I've done some rehab on all the stations, replacing the pipes, which I'll be coming to you in 2 weeks from now, asking for 66,000 to replace the pipes in lift station 2 before we raise it. So I've been strategically replacing the pipes first, and then whatever needs to be raised, then we raise them.
Okay, so again, you're coming back to us for lift station 1. 2 and 3 are in process with this before us. And 4, 5, 6, the status on those?
4, 5, and 6, they're working properly and they're well above. 5 has been rehabbed, replaced the pipes and lift station 5. Lift station 4, the pipes will be replaced. I think that's 2 or 3 years out. I have that in the CIP to replace the pipes in lift station 4. But the elevation are fine on all the other ones.
Okay.
Lift
All right.
station 6 is for the library. It's a very small station back there, but it's in great shape.
So, and when you say elevation, you're really trying to only meet the center line of A1A right now, the same height.
But above it, to be determined how high we want to go above the
And
crown of
you're,
it.
and you're working with FDOT to figure out what that correct height is.
Correct.
So there's no issues with the RRR program and all of that.
No, no, no.
All right. Then just on the contract itself, and by the way, I'm very supportive of all of this, of course, and you do a great job. But for those who might be listening, the source of funds and the point about not to exceed versus fixed price, could you speak a little bit to that as to why it is what you're suggesting?
You mean why the 53,000 not to exceed?
Yeah.
Is that what you're getting at?
Yeah.
Well, these,
Why'd you go with a not to exceed contract versus a fixed price?
I'm not sure how to answer
So
that.
if I may, we have professional service agreements with four firms or five?
Four.
With four engineering firms. And if we recall, under state statute, when you go out to bid for this, we cannot use price to determine who we want to select. So you go through this, they call the CCNA process, yada, yada, yada. And then we eventually get prices. And then within the contracts, they have to come with task order based on the hourly amounts that they anticipate or guess will be needed to do the project. But because the task order is over 25,000, the commission has to approve it. Baxter Woodman's taking a guess at how many hours it would take so that they can do the job. So it's based on a T&M, but at some point, I like to ask for a not to exceed to kind of put them in a box a little bit. So when they start doing the T&M, there is a cap to it. And they're a little more apt to obey those limits a little bit better if you establish one.
And a fixed price is a cap, obviously, but you're saying that it would be more difficult for them to estimate the number of hours and feel comfortable about it without getting in trouble.
Correct. This is a good estimate, and it could come in below the 53, but it can't exceed.
Well, again, given the concern about how we manage our procurement processes and that, we're doing it legitimately and all that sort of thing, it is amazing to see the extent of the process here. You go through, you got to get a consultant, you have to define the scope, the task, you have to conduct workshops, topographical survey, you got to do final design and construction docs, then you get bids, you advertise for that. Then when you get the bids, you have a pre-bid conference first and then clarifications. And then you got to receive the proposals and then permits, confirm the deliverable. I mean, it's an incredible list. And in this case, for, $53,000 project. And yet, you have others that are coming. I'm just wondering, is there a way to, avoid so much of this, to cut out the bureaucracy and the paperwork of it? Now, I'm speaking as kind of a commercial guy here.
And the way I've done that is that's why I replace the pipes. I don't get engineers. I go in before, have the pipes replaced in kind without, if I would add engineering and replacing pipes, you're running that cost up as well. So that's kind of how I get it a little bit cheaper. The stuff I can do without engineer, I do. And some things you just have to have engineers.
Okay.
Well, we're looking at redoing some of the purchasing policies to try to streamline to the greatest extent practicable, but at the same time, the best practice and governed practice under statute is to go through this type of process. So there's no funny business or perceived business.
And I understand that. I appreciate that. I don't think a lot of people understand the restrictions and the process and the detail and the statutes involved in regulating all of this. But my goodness, it's also costly. And if there's some way of folding in future projects like this without having to go through this every single time for a $50,000 contract, that's my only observation to the whole thing.
Well, wait till we talk about hiring an auditor.
I know. Okay, very good. Well, what else can I say? Thank you, Pat.
Thank you.
Natasha?
Just a quick question. Was this already in the budget? This
Correct.
It was? Okay,
Yes.
so it's not as some addition, it was anticipated and,
Yeah, Yep, we're anticipated, just as a side note, I was going to say in the manager's minute, we did ask for the appropriations fund that was established as part of the approval of the budget. So we did put lift stations in based on some guidance from Commissioner Gossett-Seidman, Representative Caruso, that the governor likes these type of projects. So we threw the lift station work. So hopefully, maybe if the stars align, we can get some money thrown at it from the state. That'll help a little bit.
If I could add to that point, I received a call Monday from Speaker-elect Paul Renner, and I'm meeting with him Thursday, along with Representative Caruso and other local state elected officials. So I will certainly remind him of this need. He will be the speaker in the next session, and his office is very aggressively watching our grant, our House grant.
Good.
Thank you.
Okay, Pat, just a couple of quick things. Most of it's covered already. Could you give us maybe a 5-year window on lift stations costs and what you're doing? You might want to go back a year or two.
Yeah. Let me see, lift station 2 is going to be, I'm spending 60.
No, put it on a piece of paper.
You want me
Yeah,
to?
so we can see.
Okay,
Here's what-
yeah,
like
okay,
to
no
see,
problem. I got all
Here's
that
what
on
we've
CIP.
done. Here's what we're going to be doing in the next 3
Okay.
years and what the cost of each is. That way we got a whole snapshot of lift stations.
Gotcha.
That'd
Will
be
do.
helpful to, I think, all of us. Okay.
Will do.
Yeah, it's also,
Panel work too. so,
Yeah, did some panel work, and we've steadily been working to
Yeah.
keep everything up to
No,
standards.
no question you're staying on top of it,
Right.
but each time we talk about it, it just
Gotcha.
seems
It
like
does
a
get
single
confusing.
operation,
Right.
but it's not. It's a whole
Right.
big
There's-
package. Okay,
Gotcha.
that would be very helpful.
and that summary would be very good on the list of accomplishments that we have. The
Yeah,
summary that the mayor is asking for would be a good compilation that includes accomplishments as we go forward, because there's a lot involved in this.
Yep, will do.
Mayor?
Yeah.
Quick question, and this is a little bit of a long shot. Is there any relevance to the lift stations, the FDOT coming through with Swale and Triple R in the near future, and our efforts to make the building recertification process work? Are there any areas of town which has flooding issues which could be mitigated by the Triple R, the Swales, or the lift stations, which would be an asset to their parking or garages or anything? Is there any relevance there?
Not that I can come up with right off the top.
Okay,
of
just
my head
wondered.
right now.
It seems like we're doing all of this fixing along A1A, so just wondered if it helped. Thank you.
Thank you.
okay, so if there's no more discussion on it, we need a motion.
I move that we approve task order number 23 for the rehabilitation of lift station number 3 in an amount not to exceed $53,513.
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you,
You
Commissioner.
got it. Let's move on now to item B, a new business. That's resolution number 2022-014. The resolution of the Town Commission of Town of Highland Beach, Florida, setting the proposed not to exceed millage rate pursuant to section 200.065 parens 2 parens B Florida statutes, and setting the date, time, and place at which a public hearing will be held to consider the proposed millage rate and tentative budget. Can be found on page 22. David, it's all yours.
Oh, thank you. I noticed that I stayed for all their presentations. And then when I get up here, they're at it and they're gone. I don't understand.
And you're talking about the big money.
Exactly. Mine's fun. Mine's engaging. I got color graphs and so, but anyway. I think we have a PowerPoint presentation. Let's see. Yep, there we go. Okay. All right, so I'll just continue. Mr. Town Manager, jump in at any time. This is the time of year where we do obviously our preliminary budget, and what's on the docket today is setting that maximum millage rate. And so, but just some highlights. First of all, we're looking at a slight decrease in our proposed millage rate. We've recognized a 13.75% increase in our taxable values. And later on in the presentation, I do have some history of that that we'll get to. But and in addition, that 1% reduction is also a result of a reduction in the debt service millage as part of the town water rate transitions, going back more to the water department. I think actually for I don't know since when, but we're anticipating that there'll be no need to balance the budget from pledged reserves, which is a great thing, especially in these times of escalating prices. You'll see also later on as we go through, a lot of it has to do with the fire department and what we're all doing as the mayor also talked about. And as well as we'll also see later on in the slides that, salaries and benefits and what that adjusted to by each department. And as we go on, please stop me at any time if you have any questions or you want to dig deeper.
I was just gonna hit some of those the highlights of this. As you may recall, we went to the FAB and they confirmed the setting of the maximum millage rate at 3.5875, and also we're very supportive of the concept of giving the employees a one-time payment because of the economic conditions that we're looking at. They thought that was a great idea for the 5% for the non-union, 2.5% for the union. All those would be booked in the current fiscal year based on some of the improved timing that we discussed, whereas we're not spending all that we thought in fire because we've been able to stay in the consultant longer than bringing on our own personnel. Some of the natural transition of staffing through the year, this current year, and delays took David a little bit longer to show up from Orlando. So we saw some savings there, right? See, he helps us out. It's always David helping us out. So those type of things allow us that we could do a one-time booked payment. So the FAB was looking at that, and some of this is really that we're starting to chart this course into this unsettled economic condition, this inflationary, this unknown, these cost increases, and understanding that we're on this 2-year process, 3-year window to get the fire station. And again, we're kind of beating the drum. We're staying the course, holding our position moving forward that we're going to implement fire. We have the loan in place. We have cash reserves that next year we're anticipating we can do these things, purchase the EMS unit and not have to get into the reserves, which preserves that financial position as we move forward, facing some conditions which we don't know. And we're going to be renegotiating 2 union contracts. What I'm seeing in these other communities, resetting new contracts, they're getting big. So taking a position where we lower it a little bit and hold it, I think preserves our ability to push through any type of recession that, as some say, we are in. And we just don't have, we're building a fire station. We got to buy a ladder truck. We're starting a fire department. Even if the county gives us a little grief, we're doing it. So we will be spending this money. And conceivably, by holding that cash position, it's less money we may need to borrow and hold the timing on interest expense on that Synovus loan, where instead of, and I got this message from y'all in the FAB, was instead of taking $5 million, it'd be great if we only had to borrow 3.5. So by holding our financial reserves in place and not pledging reserves and holding our tax rate, or actually reducing it by 1%, we push that out further, that amount, so that it's only, I don't want to say guaranteeing, but it is, the probability is increasing that we'll have to borrow less funds and use more cash, which I know you like.
I know.
So it puts us in a better spot in that longer term, and it pushes that window out. And that's just because of the ability to get that property tax growth. I don't know. On August 4th, we'll have this question answered. Dorothy Jacks, the property appraiser, will be here. So those watching, she's a marvelous property appraiser, and she knows a lot of information. I don't know that we can anticipate, 13% next year. I think it's going to go back down to our traditional averaging. So we have this one-time opportunity to push us out a little bit further than we
was pledged, because at the budget time, but the actual amount we didn't take from the fund. We actually put money into the fund.
That's correct.
So
That was the-
I just
it was
want to
the, it was the
clarify
year
that.
prior. The 642 is the current operating year. 642 is now, like the budget that we're
Right now,
actively in
today.
is 642. The year prior, you're right. We had a similar amount, 650 something or 675. And we not only didn't use it, we flipped it because of some timing issues and the natural 1 to 3% budget savings that
Right.
we get from year over year. We added to the reserves. And I think that happens to be some improvements on the accounting side of the house.
no.
Really
I
makes
mean,
big
kudos,
differences.
huge kudos. I mean, that's the
So
way we want it
we're
to be. but-
tightening down what we weren't really that great at, so.
Time out,
Yeah.
just time out for a second. Okay, I asked the financial advisory board, I went to that meeting.
Hmm.
And at the end of the meeting, I asked them a question, which I was going to ask everybody here, the same question. But being that we're talking about the reserves right now, I'm going to ask it now and tell you what they said. Since I've been involved coming to the meetings, every year reserves are pledged and not used.
Right.
And when I first got here,
We should have that shortly. And if
August
we don't
1,
like
right?
the numbers, we're gonna have you deal with them again. Get some
Yeah.
better numbers.
Yeah, because we had just switched over and we kind of even said, we don't expect to get dinged the next year. You know, it shouldn't have been a teaser rate or anything like that, you
It
know?
may be a little bit, they'll find somewhere to get us. That's how insurance companies work. At least my position. I mean, if anybody worked in insurance, I apologize. Yeah, so we'll see what the numbers are. Every year it does go up a little bit,
Yeah.
I'd imagine, but hopefully not those big jumps that we started experiencing. Once Eric gets it, you know, he'll share it with everybody to see what those numbers look like. And that's, again, as we move through the budget process, when we start getting into our budget workshops, we'll start getting those numbers, the healthcare numbers. We'll really start dialing in a little bit.
Yeah, so there's still some stuff in here that hasn't been quite tied down yet, right?
Yeah,
But it shouldn't make
right.
too
You know,
much-
you take your, you take your best estimate, obviously, and you increase that estimate, what's been going on. You know, historically, 37%, of our expenditures are in salaries and related benefits, which includes health insurance and things like that. 54% is in operational. Those are those other type of insurances, the general liability, the property, the other type of consultants. But overall, we are looking at about a 5 to 6% increase in our overall expenditures. Now, part of the story is the fact that our tax base is healthy and strong and increased 13%. But overall, the state of Florida has done well with our sales tax, our gasoline tax, our discretionary sales tax. So all that's good news, which helps. Not only that though, but we are also transitioning, right? We're not having to send over as much to the water department, right? To cover debt service. And so that helps strengthen our general fund. So, yeah.
So one more last question.
Yes.
So you're new this year, and I guess my question is, has there been any change in the practice of the level of conservatism that has been put into the budget? So the statement that was made in prior years, whatever was pledged to transfer from the fund balance to balance the budget, normally, we are able to realize something in the other direction. Was there any change as a result of you coming on board and the level of conservatism, more conservatism, less conservatism, that we can expect like that to be any different from prior years?
I'm going to go out and I'll put David out on a limb. I think our level of accuracy is improving.
So, I mean, to me,
Yeah.
that means there would be less of he would be more on target with the no transfer.
I'm
And
thinking he
that we
is,
should
yes.
not be expecting a huge transfer to funds, because if you've gotten more accurate,
Yeah.
then we should not be expecting
Yeah,
a huge
that's
savings
correct.
at the
Yeah.
end of the year.
And again,
So-
the larger the sample size, right, the large, yeah.
Because I just want, because I think that I guess that's maybe what I was thinking was, now we have somebody new, maybe more accurate. So maybe we should not be counting on a transfer to the fund balance at the end of the year, because if this is, much more accurate.
Again, this, this looks at the current year that we're in, the budget that we're in, we look at data through, currently, we're wrapping up the month of June. So, that's good, healthy, where we're going to be at. So, yeah, I mean, and I think on, let me see, and again, this is early indications, right? So early indications, when I look at projection, this is my projection, right? My projection is that, this year, instead of $600,000, right? We might only have to pull, but it's early yet. Early is relative, but right now I'm at about $129,000 that we might have to pull out of a $13 million budget. You know what? We may have to pull about $128,000. But again, I like to be conservative on my revenue side as well as conservative on my expenditure side. I like to be right. I like to be right in the wrong direction, right? So.
Oh, so we pledged 642, but you're thinking we are gonna have to in fact take 129?
It's early, right? Yeah.
But that's right now,
for
as
my-
of right now.
Yeah, for my first 9 months. And again, I'm being
Okay.
really conservative on the revenue side. I'm going to be conservative on the revenue side, and I'm going to be more aggressive on the expenditure side because I want to be right in the wrong
But
direction.
you usually don't know that number. You won't actually know that number until,
Probably September, October.
Yeah,
We'll
well,
be
October,
closer.
November. Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
it's still $500,000 savings
Oh.
from what we thought.
Absolutely.
I would challenge David that would probably be a little bit less than that,
Yeah.
I guess, even with what I'm saying, though, the one-time payment to employees for the economic times, that includes that too. So I think we're in great position, and I don't know that we'll even get there because there's some expenditures or some, if you really have time, go into the spreadsheets in David's office. He'll walk you through, some of this projection and estimating on where we are, certain budget funds. We're in great shape. So
Yeah.
So you're thinking it might even be closer to zero.
Closer
Yeah,
to
oh,
zero.
yeah.
Okay.
Could be.
But I'm just
Okay.
trying, right, I just, more comfortable.
Okay.
Yes.
David, correct me if I'm wrong, but should there be some unforeseen needed expenditure? We can always go back in and amend the budget and take money out of reserves if we need it.
Yes.
We don't have to sit here and pledge it now to balance the budget. Therefore, what you're saying is we can balance our budget just fine without pledging reserves. So then I see no reason to pledge reserves.
Right.
Just leave it the way it is. If we need it, we go
There-
back and we deal with it.
They're already been pledged in the budget. The question is how much of that pledge is used. That's all.
No, I understand that, but I'm talking about the next budget. This
Yeah.
year.
Oh, right. Oh, of course.
Yes.
Oh, you're
And you
totally
will be
right.
doing
I'm talking
that.
about going.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
And next year, I think you'll be doing it more because we did not put in the construction amount. So when we get to the point of here's what that stipulated sum or what we're going to do with the fire station, it's going to come to you all and you're going to say this cash, this, loan, and you'll have to do budget amendments and tell us exactly how you want to spend it. So.
Yeah.
And the other thing I'll point out, you still have contingent line items for contingency.
Yes.
Like in every department. So even aside from any,
We have a 25,000 in the general fund. We've used that for something I couldn't remember, IT purchase, I think, or something we didn't anticipate. I'm sure department heads give themselves a little breathing room in a couple of line items, but there's not like a contingency specific like miscellaneous or contingency by department. It's just for fund. And it's usually a relatively small amount. But I'm sure, department heads won't confess it to me, but I'm sure they come to a certain item and, they kind of add themselves $500 here, $300 here to kind of.
well, one place there definitely is in for salaries, right?
Right.
Because there's already a built-in level of conservatism for, because you budget for full salary.
Yeah.
So I think that's where a lot of the contingency comes.
Yeah,
from.
that and also on the water and sewer side, it's capital projects,
Right.
and things like that.
And that's the accuracy part. So what David's done a really good job for us this year, which the commission found out during budget last year was our personnel budgeting. We didn't do a really great job with that. We kind of guessed he's got it down to the dollar, the spreadsheet, the amount, the percentage by employee, by step. So going forward, we did, but the current year, David didn't do that budget. And I think that's why we're seeing, we weren't as accurate in the salary items, why we're guessing, $350,000 range of we over budgeted in personnel line items because we weren't as accurate as we could have been. So moving forward, we fixed it, but that's what makes this year available. And that opportunity exists to help some of the employees with cost of living, inflation, gas, those type of things.
Yeah, there's a lot of variables, obviously, with all the unions, with the two unions. And so, yeah, but it, it's very, very important, obviously, to be accurate, because here's why, right? Because when 6 months into this, if we're off, right, you want to know why is it a bad budget number, or did you miss something over here? Either way, it's good data, right? To know that, oh, okay, this is where it's at and what the problem is. But right now, very conservative, I'd rather tell you that our revenues are going to be low and they come in high. And I'd rather tell you that our expenditures are going to be up to here and they come in a little bit less, but nothing too crazy. The state of Florida is healthy. The property taxes are healthy. Our building department is doing gangbusters, like we'll see. Now we'll switch, and what we're trying to do in all of this is what we're trying to do is we have an opportunity to make our water fund and our sewer fund make those stand on their own 2 feet. And by raising those rates gradually, by not transferring over as much of the debt service. And you know what? If we stick to the plan, I think that we'll get there in the next 2 years. So.
Mayor, comment?
Yeah, go right ahead. Go right ahead.
I guess I want to go back to your original point, which is for the record, I'd like to go on record saying that I prefer a conservative approach, not just because of the recession and inflation and the uncertainty of prices and costs going forward, but also, we have some uncertainty on this whole fire EMS project. We haven't, as a town, resolved, I think, the pricing and revenue side of our water department. I know that's separate from the general fund. So my view is, given these turbulent times, being conservative is something that is, I think, a responsible way to go. And these risks could be substantial, even though, it may be, in the budget, but we just underestimated it. So when we have a problem. In any event, I'd just like to go on record for that point that you're making, Mayor. I think it's a good one.
Thank you, John. It's all yours.
Thank you. And so, we've talked about, obviously, the general fund, the new additional positions that we've included, again, on the budgetary side, our capital purchases. And so, it's balanced and it's looking very good. This right here just looks at this slide here now takes it from a macro level, and we go down to a micro level by departments. And you'll see also too what we did. You'll see obviously the fire rescue department. That's the main thrust of this. But you also see that we added a department called shared services, right? So we're going to have a full staff fire department, a full staff police department, a building department. We're now getting much better at allocating costs. So now we have the shared support services department, which will be a lot of the IT, the communications, the cell phones, the insurance will all get accumulated in that department so we can allocate it out specifically to those departments. And again, and I know we're jumping all over the place, but this slide here just indicates where I believe that our fund balance will be not only by the end of this year, but also through our FY 23. Again, we filled in all the buckets per our fund balance policy. You know, we have a budget, we have amounts for budget stabilization, we have amounts for disaster recovery. There's that fire rescue. So it seems at this time a very successful plan. The discretionary sales tax, as you're aware, discretionary sales tax, you know, that's money that the state of Florida gives over to us that really it's restricted in what you can spend it on, but you want to make sure you spend it on those capital and big ticket items.
Sure.
And so here you can see, I've given you a list of what we anticipated to spend in FY 22. Here's our plan for FY 23. And also in the middle there, you can see a status, because I wanted to give you what happens to a lot of these projects when we bring them to you. You know, do they get complete? Do they move forward? Do they get canceled? You know, and so that this part here, you can see what happens, a lot of shift in that capital projects. At the end, this is where I believe that our fund balance will be specific to the discretionary sales tax fund. You know, it will still be healthy. We'll have $190,000 in there. And again, next year at this time, the state of Florida, there'll be additional funds in there that the state of Florida will give us. Building department, as we said, the building department continues to outperform any forecasts. In addition, we're also entertaining the idea of an interlocal agreement with Gulfstream. Right now, best estimates are there could be an additional $300,000 of revenue that is the result of that. I offset that revenue with an increase in our outsourced CAP governmental services contract, just so we can break even. But again, this system is the building department's doing very well. You know, obviously, the area is investing in the infrastructure and home values are doing very well. And so the building department's doing very well. Overall, no pledged revenue on their side. So remember, we're out of the general fund side. We're back now into the building department. This right here is their expenditures that, again, just associated with the building department. You can see there that, you know, you have about 41% of the total expenditures are salaries and related. 57% is operations and 2% is capital projects. So it's balanced very well. I've included about 8.1% change there in salaries and related. Keep in mind, that's also includes health insurance, dental insurance, cost of living adjustments, and so on and so forth. But this department continues to do very well. But again, this is an example of not having to pull any money or using any money from their reserves. Here's what their fund balance will look like in that department. And again, it's pretty conservative, but it's going to be healthy. I know that my numbers do not include any continuation of the 10% reduction in permit fees, as was discussed. So my numbers do not include that potential reduction. So, but it's doing very well, as you can see.
How can the fund balances be the same? The end?
The end is because back here, right, I'm matching my revenues and expenditures. So, right, so my revenues are 1.768 million and my expenditures are the same. So I would expect, money coming in, money going out. I would assume that the fund balance, again, there's going to be timing differences,
Yeah,
but just on a budget, just in a budget level.
all right.
Yeah. All right. So this is where we were talking about some not really major changes. We've had a discussion. You've had Raf tell us come in and discuss about your water and sewer department. We knew already that there is a 10% rate increase on the books, or part of the plan on the water side, and a 12% rate increase on the sewer side. And what the idea is that, hey, this is really 2 more years of this, and we will be, hopefully that utility system will be able to stand on its own 2 feet. And so you can see here, the major change here was that we're not anticipating the continuation of any ARPA funds. We will get the last payment of it in September of this year, which will be booked in September of this year. And so my numbers include a 10% rate increase. The 10% rate increase will go into effect October 1, if approved. It will affect not only the base fees, but also all of the tiered different levels as would be normal. Currently, we are tracking a little bit less. Our consumption is down a little bit. Now, keep in mind, I only have data here through the month of June. August, I'll get another tranche of data for the previous 2 months. So the more data that I get, you can already see that it's starting to pick up there as far as the consumption goes. But historically, we did see a difference in same time last year versus this year as far as consumption in gallons goes. I know that the rates increased, but we did see a little bit drop in the amounts consumption wise. These are our rates. Again, this is here just for additional information. This was our history of our rates. And down below there, you can also see our water class of customers. How many are in single family, multifamily, and whatnot, and what the breakout is. These are the expenditures. Again, the budget here is the salaries and related. It looks like about 3.4%. Capital projects is down about $64,000 compared to last year. Debt service remains constant. Here's the neat thing about what happens to debt service in FY24. This is why what staff is suggesting is that we keep with our current plan, because debt service goes down $369,000 in FY24 and another $369,000 in FY25. So that's when you can reduce fixed costs like that in any type of water system. That's always a great idea. Here is what I believe our fund balance will be at the end of FY22 as well as at the end of FY23. And right now, I'm predicting that we'll have about 272 days in cash on hand, operating days. That'll drop to 194 days. Still, depending on who you talk to, Raf Tellis likes 150 days cash on hand. Some rating agencies, again, like to be a little more conservative. They like 365 days cash on hand. The reason why is because most of the time, any major breaks to any water system, to any sewer system, it's major. You got to excavate ground just to get at the problem. So again, having healthy reserves is important. And the sewer fund, you know, as you're aware, we have on the books right now, or the plan is to have a 12% rate increase. The sewer revenue is projected, again, it's down because of the reduction in the reduced water consumption. We're down about $207,000. We do have a cap on our sewer, 20,000 gallons bi-monthly. We're not anticipating, again, any additional ARPA funds. And right now, this system this enterprise system, we're budgeting about $212,000 from pledged reserves to fill the gap. But hold on, let me show you what that looks like. Oops, let me go back here. So again, if you can see here, we had about $565,000 from ARPA, right? Well, that goes away next year. So we have to fill that gap, obviously. Most of the expenditures on this side of the enterprise fund are with our contract with the city of Delray Beach. Here you can see our changes in the revenue. We have base fees. Our base fees went down as per the plan, and we charged a little bit more on the per 1,000 gallonage rate. I'm on the last slide. So in summary, but the general fund, what we're proposing is to set a maximum millage of 3.5875. That's a 1% reduction. We have no pledged from reserves as opposed to the prior year. Our general fund increases were driven mainly by the increase in our fire rescue budget. Discretionary sales tax decrease is due to the completion of prior year projects and offset by increases in anticipated revenues. Our building department continues to be driven by continued increases in building activity, as well as the potential of an interlocal agreement with Gulfstream. Our water fund decreases as the result of the ARPA funds that we're not going to get in FY23, and we're offsetting that by the 10% rate increase per the plan, and the same thing with the sewer fund. So
I have a quick question.
Yes, ma'am.
On the prior slide, estimated day cash.
yes,
So we're transferring money from reserves, but I mean, we've got a ton of reserves in that.
yeah, you do. I mean, you've got healthy reserves. Now, keep in mind one last thing. We have ARPA funds in those reserves.
Which
And-
are ours.
Yeah, they're ours. They're ours. Yeah,
And we have to spend
yeah,
them.
we got to spend them. So again, as prices are increasing, right, we're going to be anticipating that 1.3 million pipe relining could go up substantially. And
Okay, so that pipe relining, project is in the budget, right?
It is in this year's budget. We're still opening up bids for that. I'm hoping that we could get it done with and booked into this year's budget so it doesn't roll forward. But at the end of the day, yeah.
So it's justified to have that much days cash, but I just hear you say a transfer from reserves and that kind of sends off an alarm, but I don't think it should set off an alarm. You know, I think we just stay the course because we have a ton, even more than your conservative 365 days cash. We have much more than that.
Yep.
623 in the current year, 573 in the next year.
Yep.
So we're in good shape.
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
I have a different question.
yes, sir.
Just your basic business.
Basic.
We're going into next year in sewer with a revenue plan of $1,524,000, knowing that the expense is $1,532,000. I find that problematic. How do you go into a revenue plan? How do you go into a year's plan knowing your expenses are greater than your revenue? Not by much, but it's just philosophically wrong. Unless I'm
I-
picking a
Yeah,
bad number.
I
up
don't,
front.
you're looking at the sewer side of life, right?
Yeah, I'm on sewer.
So you're on sewer, so you have total revenues of 1.757 million.
No, I'm talking about next year.
Next year, the preliminary budget,
Yeah, but forget about reserves. Charges for services, $1,524,000.
yeah,
Go back to the previous page.
yep,
Expense,
1,757,000.
excuse me, the following page. Yeah, 1,757,000. If you just take salaries and related operations, it's 1,532,000.
Yeah,
It's still more than revenues.
yeah, right. And so that's why we're having to pull money from reserves.
Yeah, well, I'm saying you can't run a business that way. Therefore, we need to talk about the rates.
Yes, yes.
So we can't set rates that are going to produce revenues lower than our cost.
Right.
Forgetting about capital costs, et cetera, et cetera.
And,
So
and
we can't be talking about leaving the plan as it's currently sets.
well, right now our plan was a 3 to 5 year plan.
Yes, but in the upcoming year, we have a small increase planned.
Yeah,
That
well,
increase isn't going to cover our cost.
right.
So we're going into the year with a plan of losing more money.
Yeah.
I'm saying that's unacceptable.
Okay.
To me. I don't know about my associates here sitting here.
I mean, we've got a year and a half worth of cash on hand. But six something, what slide is that? The slide that showed, we've got 623 days of, if we didn't get any more dollars.
Yeah.
We've got 623 days. His super conservative is, he'd like to see 365. Raftalis in their report said they were comfortable with 150. We've got the rate increase and we still have transfers from general fund that are happening.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, so
I think
the ongoing operation is continuing to lose money. Forgetting about a little bit of interest and pulling money from reserves. Our basic operation is again losing money after 2 years of increases. That's not acceptable in my mind.
Well, yeah, I mean, it goes from, and I charges for services right here, slide number 29, right? So right now, my preliminary budget has us at 1.524 million.
Right.
Okay, that includes a 12% rate increase. And our expenditures are 1.5, what is that? 32 million. Right. And so it's close. We're getting there. We have a 12% rate increase in FY23, and then I think we have a 5% rate increase in the following year. The good news is that this system has cash to what you're absolutely right. A business shouldn't be in business, obviously, to lose money, but we do have reserves to carry us through until we get to the end of our plan.
I think the point, though, is that we should have a business operating to meet the goal without having to rely on reserves, especially after 2 years of increases. I think that's the point, right?
100%.
But that's not what we discussed all along. When we did this plan, we understood that it was going to take a while for the increases to get up to a point where it was self-sufficient. We knew that we were going to be, in essence, operating at a loss for 3 to 4 years, if I remember how long we had planned it out.
Right.
So the fact that it's a little bit of a loss still, that goes along with the way we structured it.
Right.
Even though you might not normally do that in a business operation, I understand that. It was planned in so that we weren't increasing the rates by 100% right away. So that it was kind of, it was lessening the impact on our consumers.
Well, if you're all comfortable with continuing to lose money.
But we did.
Until we get
Because we're getting,
closer.
we're getting killed in water. Here, it's a slight hit. But this is just, you know, we're just running it through the pipes and paying Del Rey. That's it. You know, this is a no-brainer business. We don't do anything to it. We don't treat it. We don't
Sewer, right.
farm it. We don't do anything. And we're still losing money.
Well, the other option would be to have a major increase.
Well, a little bit more, just to at least cover our costs.
But we have a ton of in reserves. We have much more than any benchmark. I don't think
What
we
about
do
the
it.
reserves?
I think we wait
Let's wait.
and see at least another year.
Can we
Because-
transfer some of these reserves to water?
No.
No,
Can't. Can we transfer them any place?
no.
They have to stay here.
Which is why what you're doing is using to make up the difference.
So we're gonna, well, we need this for capital. You need this to line the pipes.
Yep.
Yeah. You know,
So
on the
we're gonna
sewer
use
side,
up a lot of these reserves just to line the pipes. We only have 270,000 here, right? How much do we got? How much do we have in reserves? We got couple of million?
yep, we'll be at 2.9 million at the end of this year. And 2.76 million at the end of next year.
Question, how much of the
What's it
reserves?
gonna cost to line the pipes?
More than we have.
Oh, there
So that's
goes-
why we're gonna have a strategy
Okay,
for you all
so-
to match the ARPA funds, whatever that is. We're gonna come up with a strategy for you to spend
Big.
all of it because you have to. But it's gonna cost more than we have or
There go
anticipate.
the reserves.
However, if we get lucky to get some of the lift station dollars, it would balance this budget because the capital money that you see in the sewer is for the lift station work.
Yeah, that's not
We got money
conservative.
to offset the lift station there, then we kind of,
Yeah.
I don't know how lucky we'd get to get it, but you know, we've got to, you know.
I mean, I know I'm talking nickels and dimes here. It's just the principle.
No, you're right.
Running a business at a loss that you don't do anything to.
Well, right, but it's getting narrower, right? It's and that's why from staff, you know, we make the recommendations, you make the policy, but you know, all we're saying is that, you know, if we stick to the plan, that we're getting close and we are.
Can you show us some options that says, hey, with a, 2% increase over what you're talking about here, it would look like this? I mean, show, what will it actually cost to break even?
Sure.
I mean, I think it's worth some conversation anyway.
We're only
Look
talking
at
about
what the options are.
$8,000 here. It's only $8,000 on the plan. It was the principle that I was talking about. but
Yeah.
I don't think I'm getting much support on it, so maybe we
I
should
can
just
cut the
move on.
budget by $8,000. I mean, I can cut the budget.
It was just the principle of going into a business another year, losing money.
All right.
Uh,
You
but-
have my support.
Into.
Okay, leave it alone, move on.
Yes,
Quick
sir.
question.
Yeah.
How much ARPA funds? I didn't, having trouble locating it. How much do we have remaining that
We-
needs to be used?
1.9,
One
you know.
point nine $8.8 million. We've just basically thrown it into the capital funds and we have to, David will work through the thing to reconcile it, that we spent it on capital projects. He's got to prove that by 2026, we spent basically $2 million on water and sewer projects.
Yeah.
And
Piece of
that is-
cake, but we
And
just
that
gotta,
is, that is our date for, our end date for having spent the funds.
correct.
And then to whom do we report that?
We
Feds?
report, we report that to the United States Department of Treasury.
Federal. Got it.
Yep.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, move on.
Okay. Anyway, So, as we discussed
did.
earlier, the Financial Advisory Board, we had their concurrence with the maximum millage rate, the water rate increases and the sewer rate increases. And as you can see here, this is the next several phases of the budget cycle. And I'm here to answer any questions, even if you don't have them now and you want to come to me later or call me on the weekends or whatever, we can discuss all of this. And that's all.
Can
I
you
have.
just confirm what the plan is that going forward about water?
Water, the plan is to have a rate increase of 10% for both the base fee and the consumption. That'll go into effect October 1st. And a 12% rate increase effective October 1st on the sewer side.
So do we feel comfortable that that's going to right the ship, given what's happened over the past few months? Because it just seems to me, if you raise it 10 and you find out we're still in a bind, you're debasing your 10% on what you believe will be a much more increased level of usage, correct?
Well, no, it's, there's a cap on sewer. Right?
No, I was
So-
talking water. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Yeah, a proportion of it is based on assumed consumption. I'm hoping that our building department doesn't say that no one could live in these condos because the water department needs the revenue. And so at the end of the day, yeah, it's based on an assumed level of usage, right?
The
And
answer,
does- The answer is yes. And the vice mayor, you agree?
Yeah, in my report, I have some analysis to share with you and maybe we can take it up then.
All right, I didn't know
Is
that.
Yep.
Okay.
That's all I have.
what happened was, just briefly, is the analysis that David did and went over with Natasha was that the usage is starting to pick back up again. There seems to be some elasticity on it, and early on it dropped off. Everybody's okay. That was the question. Is everybody okay?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So early on, the usage dropped off, but it seems to be coming back. So it seemed to be like an early reaction to the increase in rates. People were conserving, but doesn't seem to be holding. You agree?
I have charts.
Anything to add to it?
I have charts to show you
I'm
guys
sure
later.
you
So,
do, but
yeah.
okay.
So
So the
I
answer
don't,
is yes.
so I don't know if at this time we continue with because there is I guess, a resolution on the books right now for, is the board going to vote on the setting the maximum millage now, or are we going to defer that after?
No, we can do it now. We're on top of it if everybody's comfortable.
We have to do it today, though.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, no,
As long as
no.
we do
yeah,
it today,
I'm just-
I don't
right.
care.
So we can, you want to do it right now?
10 o'clock.
No, I just didn't know if you wanted to have it after Ms. Moore's presentation.
Well,
Yeah, because the water rates are completely different from what we are voting on.
Yeah, that's true.
Yep.
That's true.
yeah, we can do it now. So right now, what we have to do is set the maximum millage rate.
Right.
Two things to think about. Historically, when we set the maximum millage rate, it has generally been the rate that we end up going with. Because we've gone through the budget a number of times now. David's done his fine tuning with Marshall. Everybody's comfortable with the budget. So we could set the maximum rate at the rate that's showing here. Which is, let me find it.
3.5875.
Right.
It's on page 24.
Thank you. Yeah. Or, so we could set it at that rate, which is the computed rate and obviously a reduction to last year. And that's the rate that everybody's pretty confident in right now. However, once we set it as that is the rate not to exceed,
Not to exceed.
means that if anything should come up between now and the final date, which is Marshall, the final date,
September 21st.
okay, between now and September 21st, which is essentially 2 months from now. The only way we could still balance our budget would be to go into reserves,
Right.
or David would magically have to come up with some deletions in the current plan, which we wouldn't do, obviously, because
Right.
it's a pretty tight plan to begin with. So that would force us into reserves. One other thing we could do is set the maximum not to exceed rate higher than the rate that we really think we're going to come in at, which gives us a little bit of room in case something else were to come up. For example, we could set the rate at 3.6 even, which is still lower than our current rate, which is 3.6, help me out,
225.
3.6225. So we would still be setting the maximum to exceed rate lower than our current rate, but not quite as low as we think we're really going to come in at. And that still gives us a little bit of hedge room for the next couple of months, God forbid something else came up. So those are the two things to consider. Let's kick it around, start with Evelyn.
Since it is a not to exceed and it's not a final number, I have no problem putting it at 3.6 or even 3.622. Because we don't think it's going to go there, but just in case something happens between now and September that shakes our world upside down, we have the ability to raise the money we need.
Okay, just one quick comment. If we were to go to 3.622 or whatever, that would not be then reducing the rate from where we
No,
currently are.
it would, but it wouldn't be increasing it. It would be
Yeah.
leaving it where it is.
Leaving it where it is. Okay, so that's one other thought. Peggy, what do you think?
Thanks, Mayor. Historically, and I requested the data from David a couple weeks ago. My first year, we rated the reserves because Delray Beach Fire came in at the 11.58 hour. And
700 grand or something like that.
shocking, which set off this investigation of the fire. So that year we rated the reserves. Since the last 4 years, we've remained the same. And I think that's a great track record and it speaks very well for our terrific commission. I would be interested in David's opinion of your suggestion. I'm not opposed to it. If we can remain the same or lower, as you said, 3.622. But I would also like to hear from David and Marshall on that.
Sure, when we
And,
finish, we'll
yes,
turn
sir.
it over to them as well.
So I think historically our town is doing really great. I have to say. And I'm interested in other people's opinions. Thanks.
John, what do you think? What would you like to do?
So I'm actually with Commissioner David, and I don't see any reason why we can't go ahead and say, look, the current rate, 3.22, whatever. Let's stick with that because it's only going to be for a month or two, right? And yet we're still not committing to that rate. We're saying our intention is to have a slightly lower rate, and at the one that we've
Right.
identified. So I guess for the 2 months maximum that we're talking about before it's finalized, let's have a little breathing room just for some crazy emergency without having to go through gyrations.
Natasha?
The assessment base went up over 13%. We have, no pledging of the reserves this year. And I think almost every prior year we've pledged something from the reserves.
We did.
I am comfortable going with a 3.5875. We're getting a lot in the assessment base. We have the estimate from Delray Fire, right? We already know. I think the remaining items that are still in question are, the difference of what could be realized are going to be really small. And, you know, we had kind of, when we started the whole water rate thing, we said, you know, we would realize the decrease in the debt service to kind of offset the increase in the water rates. So I like to continue to move forward with that promise or whatever. I mean, I realize, I guess you guys are saying that you really are probably going to go with a 3.5875, but I have no problem with stating that right now. We have over, you know, people are going to get hit with this increase in assessment base. I mean, I think a little less than half are definitely going to get the 3% increase, and then everybody else is going to get a very big increase. So I'm comfortable going forward with a 3.5875.
David, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't see any problem with setting the maximum in case something does happen. I never thought I would see in my lifetime a 9% increase in cost of living and stuff in 1 month. I am confident in my numbers. And so I would obviously have to defer my opinion to Marshall.
Okay, all right. Nice, there, it's good, that's good. Always needed an accounting clerk around town. So, no, I think we're not gonna go, I can't see us recommending above 3.5875, but if you want to give yourself breathing room, that's a luxury you're afforded this year, which maybe in years past you haven't been, so.
Okay. I like the idea of buying insurance when it's free. That's where we are right now. It doesn't cost us anything for it. I would not want to communicate the same rate that we're currently at, because we are fortunate to have this large increase in assessments. So I think that our population is probably looking for a reduction of some sort. The fact that we're not going to be pledging reserves, I don't know that our population even understands that and what that really means.
Yes.
We do, people that pay attention to the budget do. That's big, really big, but I don't know that everybody does. So I would like to buy a little bit of time in case something happens in the next 2 months, because it doesn't cost us anything. So I like hedging my bet a little bit. So we're at what, 3.622 now? Is that what you're?
Yes.
We're at 3.6225.
I would take it down to 3.9. No, I mean 3.5. I would take it down to 3.600.
So would you want to add the additional funds? You're looking for general fund relief or the water fund debt service relief? Because we got to pick the two numbers balanced either by raising operating or the debt service millage. And where our concern or belly aching is so much, our concerns has been on the water and sewer side. So maybe we increase the debt service millage to capture to the 3.6, and the breathing room is given into the funds.
That's fine.
Water and sewer funds.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where our risk is.
It appears such, yeah.
Okay.
So we'll add in, what is that, David? Quick math for everybody. Well,
1.2.
We're taking, sorry.
Is it, well, we have, so the,
Debt service
They're
bill
just
is gonna
gonna have
go
the
up
one-
to get the total number to 3.6.
Yeah, so right now-
0.75.
right now it's the discussion on the table is
06.
To
Oh, one
have the
7.5.
total amount be 3.6.
5, 6,
Over here to get the 3.6.
3.
Yep. So it looks like we're going with the debt service millage maximum of 0.3706. Is that correct? Could somebody else confirm the attorney's numbers? Yikes, it's always rounding up for them, right? Nobody? Okay. Glenn didn't even like my humor. Okay.
The total mill is 3.6. It's the debt service millage.
Is
Yeah.
My math is right, is the debt service millage will be 0.376.
You're right, 3.3706, correct.
Confirmed.
Confirmed, thank you.
Let it be noted, for the first time ever, an attorney had a math finger.
So, but the
15-minute increments, right?
the combined, the.
3.6000.
0.6000.
Yeah.
Zero.
You say 5967, is that what you said?
0.3706 will now be the maximum debt service millage. Operating holds
At the
at
3.2294.
3.2294. So Linelda can update the resolution as we're talking. Glenn's gonna give you the numbers, so go, there you go. So we'll update that for signature and authorization. Here's the one.
3706.
Okay, I move that we approve resolution number 2022-014 to set the not to exceed proposed millage rate at 3.6000.
Seconded.
All in favor? Or you want a roll call vote? Okay,
Yes. Commissioner David,
Yes,
Commissioner Shoemaker,
Yes.
Commissioner Gossett Seidman,
Yes,
Vice Mayor Moore,
Yes.
Mayor Hillman,
yes.
motion carries.
Okay, let's move on to the next subject, can be found on page 62. And this is about external auditing. We are looking for an external auditor. You gonna handle this one for us?
I will, yeah.
Okay, we need to find a chairperson amongst the commission. It's all yours.
Yes, if you direct your attention to
great.
sorry. If you direct your attention to the board here, that is our tentative schedule. Our 7-year contract has come to an end with Brown Associates, so we have to go back out and find new auditors. Since the last time we did this, some of the Florida statutes have changed. So what we're going to do today is first establish a selection committee. And then the chairperson, that has to be a person on the governing body, the commission, has to chair that committee. No one from the town, no employee can sit on this committee. They can only be an advisory member to the committee. We're lucky enough to have gotten the finance director from the city of Boynton Beach to sit on as one of the selection committee members. So what we're going to do today, again, is establish the committee, the chairperson from the commission, and then next commission meeting, we're going to come back and finalize the selection committee members. And then not too long after that, we're going to advertise that RFP. Once that's advertised, about a month later, it's going to close. Then we're going to do our first evaluation committee meeting. And then if the committee wants to have presentations, we can do that. If not, that might be the last meeting and the final ranking. Then we're going to go to the financial advisory board and present that. And then come back here again to get your authorization to negotiate this contract. I know you guys are probably bored with hearing procurement stuff today, but that's this process. So when you're ready, I guess you would just motion to create this committee and then appoint the chairperson.
Now, did you say nobody, no employee from the town can be on that committee?
That's right. No employee per the state statute, not making it up, can sit as a voting member on this committee. So if we want to have David on the committee, he would sit as an advisory member, but not a voting member.
Okay, and how many people make up the committee?
So, yeah. So you have to have at least 3 people on the committee.
Okay,
The chairperson being
Yep.
one. Usually is made up of people with financial backgrounds, finance directors and stuff in the local area, which we got one. And I'm going to work with whoever the chairperson is to find that next person and maybe even establish a backup person or two in case someone's out. Any more? Yeah,
so you might look to the FAB members, for example.
sure. That's fine because they're not an employee and
Right.
I don't see a problem with that.
Okay, so step one, we'll find ourselves a chairperson
Yes,
from
from the commission.
the commission. Evelyn, would you care to be the chairperson?
Sure, as long as I have backup, no
Okay,
problem.
I'll be your backup.
okay, great. Are we all comfortable with Evelyn being the chairperson? John, you
Yeah.
okay with that?
Yes, absolutely.
Because if you said no, you would have been the chairperson. Okay, then Evelyn, it's all yours. In fact, I'll turn the discussion over to you then. Do we need to vote on that or?
We need a vote.
I think you just have
Okay,
to
we
motion
do.
to motion.
Okay, I'll make the motion. I'll make the motion then that Evelyn be the chairperson. Is there a second?
I second the motion.
Okay, all in favor, just say yes.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
thank you.
I look forward to working with you. Thank
Okay,
you.
been a pleasure. Evelyn, it's all yours.
Okay,
You need to, I don't think you should go way
I'm
too
not,
fast.
come
So
back.
we need to help you, I think, look into getting 3 or 2 more people.
2 more
at least.
people.
So one more or 2 more, or as many
It
as
could
you
be, it
wish.
could, there just has to be 3, but you can have as many as you want. I usually advise like 3 to 5 is a good number for a selection committee.
So she would need 2 more because you're an employee.
It would actually be 1 more because we got the finance director from the city of Boynton Beach, who I know personally, great for this committee, has done it before for other municipalities. So we need
Oh.
1 more. And then my suggestion is to either get, another person or some backup members in case someone's out or they lose their job or whatever happens.
So it might be a good idea to get 2 people. I would suggest you look at the members of the Financial Advisory Board.
Okay,
Mr. Linelda can give you the list and phone numbers of those individuals.
no, just contact them.
Find
see.
somebody that's around from there. You agree with that?
Yeah, no,
Okay.
I'll work with you. We'll get it done. And then just so you know, we're in the middle of creating this RFP now. So when we're done fine tuning it, I'll give you the draft and we'll review it. And then if there's any changes, we'll make them and then we'll move forward from there.
And can these meetings be via Zoom or must they be in person?
It's a legislative body, so I think you could be okay. It'd probably be easier if they're in person.
But
But if they
maybe
need
not
to
every,
be,
I mean, it's over the summer and I don't know that everybody's going to be around for
I think the
everything.
preference is that the person's available.
in person, yeah.
Yeah,
It'll just make it easier and keep potential protests to the process at a minimum if they want to challenge the quorum requirement under statute. So if they're in person, but if you're having maybe a presentation and something happened, we can make it work, but they should generally be available for a couple of these meetings.
If you need a backup chair, I could be the backup. If you can't make a meeting, I can fill in for you.
Okay,
So are
perfect.
there any sunshine laws for her contacting FAB members directly? No? We're allowed.
You're just asking if they want to serve. That's
Yeah.
all.
It's not asking them to have a discussion, make a decision. It's, are they available? Would they be interested?
And we're gonna work together.
Then it'll come
on
back,
that.
it'll come back to the commission for appointment.
Mayor, question. What is involved being a member of this committee? What will they be doing over the next 2 or 3 months?
Oh, they'll basically go through the process of working actually, okay, with staff to identify firms, ask firms to submit their proposals, because we're looking for an auditing firm to do our annual audit.
And that's
So
it. I
the
mean, it's-
person will be in charge of that process.
right, they're not going to be looking at the budget and the books, so to speak. They're only looking at how to get a qualified auditor to come in and review our financial
Yeah.
capabilities over the next 3 years, correct?
3 to 5 years, depends on the terms of contracts that you're comfortable with.
We're looking at a 3-year with 2 1-year renewals.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
you know, well, obviously we'll put some performance criteria in it, I would hope.
Yeah, we're gonna draft that RFP and we're gonna get it to Evelyn, and Evelyn will have a chance to look at it, propose any changes, and then we'll get it out from there.
Yeah, so
And again,
make-
David will be available to help you what to look for, be careful of. those
You know,
types of
and
things.
Evelyn obviously has a legal background, so she'd be very comfortable with that process. The basic accounting process, obviously Marshall's very familiar with that, and we've got David. Okay? Answer your question? Taking it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
are we limited to one person from the commission to be on this committee?
Yes.
Okay, anything else?
That's it.
Good to move
All
on.
right, thank you.
Okay, we need a delegate for the Florida League of Cities 96th Annual Conference. I propose the young lady to my right. Peggy, would you do it again?
Sure, that'd be great. Thank you.
Okay, is there,
I'll take a backup too in the event my old Camaro breaks down or something.
okay.
Should be
Um,
fine though. Great, thank you.
Okay, would you like to be Peggy's
Sure,
backup?
sure.
Okay, I'll make the motion, Peggy to be the delegate for the 96th Annual Conference. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All right.
Okay, we're on to commission meeting minutes. We can look at, this says the 21st and says there's 2 minutes, both of the 21st. One's the special meeting and the
Correct.
other is the regular meeting. Does anybody have any notes, corrections, additions, deletions? Once,
I found no errors.
yay.
Wow.
Yes,
And my
I-
compliments, they're
Yes.
nice and brief.
I really
Well done.
tried. All good.
Okay, if nobody has anything, is there a motion then to accept them?
I move we accept the minutes from the June 21st, 2022 special meeting and the June 21st, 2022 regular town commission meeting.
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Okay, we'll move on to commissioner comments. John, we'll start with you.
Well, okay. First off, I'd like to thank the staff and our town manager for the manager's minute. I thought it was well done. The summary of accomplishments is an add-on that I think is particularly valuable in communicating. And I think you did a good job in following up that discussion that we had. I hope you also enjoyed the article on the Marine that lands in Highland Beach. Officer George Reed and his 4 tours of duty in Iraq and Afghanistan. The only comment I'd make about the manager's minute, however, is that it's 16 pages long. It's almost a manager's hour. You might want to look at, limiting how many pages this might evolve into. The other thing is the FDOT meeting on August 11th. I sent a note to you, Marshall. That kind of conflicts with the Florida League of Cities conference that we're all attending. There's nothing we can do about that, right?
The lady by the name of Walna contacted me back in April, and she was really just asking to use the facility. She did not give the purpose of the meeting. She did offer to allow the public to participate via Zoom. So Zoom is available if you all would like to attend via Zoom. But they have, I believe they've sent out public notices.
Okay, that doesn't help us. Can you contact them or somebody contact them, ask them to change the date? Tell them the entire commission will not be available because we have, this commitment and we would very much like to be there to support them in
Okay.
the communication to our town.
Okay, will do.
Exactly.
Absolutely. And further, Mayor, the FDOT does have a presence at the meetings also. So
What,
FDOT also has a presence
At
at the
FLC.
meetings,
at,
at the League
At
of
the
Cities.
League of
Yes, so
Cities
they have
meetings.
reps, they have a table. So it is in their best interest
gotcha.
also to reschedule this.
yeah. Okay, if you have a problem with them acquiescing to that, let Marshall know and we'll go up the ladder. Because I think it's essential that we have a good presence there.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
I totally agree, and I thank you for making that statement, because I really think we should be there, especially as it affects us in particular. But in any event, it seems like two Florida government organizations that aren't talking to each other. Another question for our town manager. The Gulfstream deal, will that require any new hires on our part?
No, sir. We're going to deploy that hybrid service. Jeff has secured guarantees from CAP that we have the necessary support staff. They're going to give us an individual that works part-time. We're going to get another full-time from them to support it. So we're going to ramp up with the consultant and ramp down, but the consultant's guaranteed it because the consultant also bid it. So they've already made those commitments and arrangements to support their bid. So they're on board with us and especially Jeff facilitating it for them.
So the only question I've gotten back is that if we did this, and I assume we will, it certainly sounds very good. Will there be an impact negatively on the response level, service level to Highland Beach residents?
We are not anticipating that. I think there's some levels of stabilization of the fund too for potential cooling of the market. But we don't anticipate it at this point because of the ability to have CAP ramp up with us. So as we need more plan review time, they will provide, CAP will give us a plan reviewer and that'll be charged back to the permit revenue generated from the Gulfstream permits.
Okay, very well. Thank you very much. That's all I have.
All yours.
No other comments today. Thank you.
Okay, Peggy.
Thank you, Mayor. Just following up on the Gulfstream situation, I did want to add that this came up in a League of Cities meeting I attended with some of the Gulfstream representatives there, and they have been waiting 9 months to 1 year for a building permit to be processed. Yes, sir, by their current partner. And we were just all speaking out, oh, can we help you? Can we help you? I advised Marshall and he followed up, and it's a win-win for everyone knowing how great our BCO is. There he is, and our department. Secondly, I'd just like to say I've been out and about quite a bit lately, and I've heard so many times, how is your town operating so well and efficiently and taking on new projects and expenses? And I just have to say it's because we're completely staffed up with superb management and staff, and the commission is just like a little family working to make everyone's life great here for the 8,423 residents. And it's just not hard to understand when you cut the fat and tackle the urgent and necessary lifestyle and living arrangements. This is what we get. And I just have to applaud everyone in town because and people are amazed, not just from Highland Beach, but we are known. I want to throw that everyone thanks for all of their assistance in this.
That's nice to hear. That's in season. No. 8,000 in season.
Oh, in season, right? But
Yeah.
still they're here.
Heads dropped up. Said,
Oh,
"That
okay.
many?" That's why.
Well, plus visitors to the hotel and season,
Yeah.
it's thousands and thousands of people. I know people who drive here just to go to church here. It's a lot of people just flocking here for our cute little wonderful 3 miles of paradise. So I have to say that it's a wonderful place to be, and I'm honored to be here myself.
Makes us all smile. Yep. Natasha.
Okay, so I did have some water sewer results to share. And I think Lynelda is going to put it up on the screen for us. Thank you very much. So thank you to staff to providing the data dump. So we received Thank you. Can we zoom in on that a little bit? Or can I do that with, I don't know if I can do it with this. Okay.
Very good.
Okay.
Okay, so can we go to the first page? I don't think this is the first page. Yeah, there should be a page.
First page.
Oh, can you go advance to the next page?
No next page.
Maybe because you're zoomed in. Yeah, I want to start on this page. And if you could zoom in on that. Okay. So we got a data dump and I organized it by different time periods so that I could show different things. So this is April. It's a 12-month period starting April. So the bottom box, this bottom box, starting April 20 to February, those are the six bills for the year starting April 20th. And I compare that to the period to April 2021 for those six bills for that year. And the reason I did it this way to show you first is the first rate increase happened April 1st, 2021. So I wanted to show how, and just to kind of refresh everyone's memory, we put in these and we had a rate increase April 1, 2021 and October 1, 2021. So this time period actually saw two rate increases, and it's compared to the period before where we had, basically no rate increases. And just to remind everyone, the rate structure change was done so that we could make it more equitable among the classes of customers. So previously, the condos were paying in 77% of the revenues, whereas single families were paying in 20% of the revenues. And so when we adjusted the rates, that became a little bit more equitable. Condos were paying in for the April 21 to February 22 bills. It was reduced to 73% of the payments, and single families were increased, 23%. And so the condos experienced an 11%. Column B shows the change in revenues. So the condos experienced an 11% increase in bills, and single families saw a 36% increase in bills. So it was a balancing act, if you recall. We didn't want to hit certain classes too hard, but we wanted to get it to be a little bit more equitable. And then column C, what that represents is the actual gallons, thousands of gallons of water that are used by classes. So the condos, their actual water usage represents 61% of the gallons that have flown through, and single families represent 35% of the water flowing through. So it got a little bit more equitable, which is what we were trying to do. So Lynelda, if we can go to the next page. I think you have to take off the zoom and then advance the next page.
What's column D?
Column D is, sorry, if we can go back to that page again. Sorry. Or maybe we can stay on this page, or okay, go ahead, zoom in. Yeah, there. I know it's not easy. That's fine. You can stay on this because I can explain what this is. So column D in each of these exhibits is basically the price per thousands of gallons. And for condos, this is a different period, but for condos, it was 14.7. And for single families, it was 7.9. In a perfect world, those would be the same, because what we tried to do is have the classes of customers pay the same amount per thousands of gallons. It was much worse in the older period. Condos were paying more per 1,000 gallon, whatever.
So what's driving that? Is it
It's because,
the unit charge?
yes,
That's what's
yes.
driving.
And it was part of that balancing act that, so the water fees, as you recall, there's a base charge there, and then we did it by tiers. And so what we had decided, we had to do some sort of base charge because we had to cover the fixed
Yeah, right,
costs.
exactly.
Unless we made that down to zero and charged by flow of water, that would be the only way to make those merge to be the same. So it was a balancing act that we did. And that's why the condos will almost always pay a little bit more per thousands of gallons. And it's just because we have to have each dwelling unit pay a certain amount of the fixed.
Absolutely.
fee.
Otherwise, the cost
Right.
per gallon for a single family is, they would never use any water. It would be outrageous.
Right,
It
right,
just
right.
wouldn't be affordable.
Right.
Yeah.
So this did improve,
Okay. So we're getting
which
there.
is what we saw on the previous slide. The single families got hit with a 36% increase in
Yeah.
bills, where the condos got hit with only an 11%. Now, as we move forward, the percentage increases are going to be the same because we're increasing the rates, the fixed rate, the per tier rates by the same percentage increase. That's what our plan is with our water rates. So that's why, so now this data is organized a little bit differently. It's organized and I thought it would be good to do it in the fiscal year, so it matched a little bit better with our accounting presentation by David, so that it was, kind of a little bit more in line. So this is a and this is not a full 12-month period because we don't have the August bills yet, but this is the 5 bills. You expect to see 6 bills, but this is the 5 bills of the fiscal period starting October 2021 to the most recent available, compared to the same 5 bills from the previous year. So October 2020 to July 2021. You want to make sure you're comparing 5 bills to 5 bills so that you can have a good comparison. So the condos experienced a 10% increase and the single families increased by 24%. And the key here is overall in the fiscal year, we had a 15% increase. And what we were targeting, according to the Raftelis study, is it should have been more like an 18.7% increase. So this is
pretty close.
it's pretty close,
Yep.
but I think it's kind of consistent with what David's saying, that it's falling a little bit short. But I don't think that it's really my overall message in presenting all this is that I'm recommending we stay the course with what was the original plan, and then perhaps maybe the final. So what Raftelis was recommending were some pretty big increases early on, and then they tapered off later. I think maybe, and even prior to all these increases, we had a steady annual increase. So I think maybe what we should consider is, what should that steady annual increase be as we go forward? Especially as you take into consideration inflation and all that kind of stuff. Raftelis had in the 5th year only a 2.5% increase. But I think that might have to be revisited. Maybe that's too low.
Let me back up a second. We're only off of essentially 4%.
Correct,
Round number.
3.7%. Yeah,
Okay,
we're only
so-
off a little bit.
So round it up to 4, that's 4% on 2.9 million. So that's like, what,
On the
120,000?
3.3, yeah, yeah.
No, that's on previous year. You got-
Right.
Right?
This is the previous year,
Yeah.
yes.
So that's 4% on,
Yep,
rounded off $3 million.
yep.
So that's 120 grand.
I guess the only thing is, we're also missing a set of bills. So I don't know what that, the sixth
Right.
set of
This is
bills
only
will say.
through
This is only
July.
5 bills. So we'll have a more complete picture after the August bills come in.
Because this is trending far less than David's number in terms of how much we're off. If it stays at only 4%.
Did you have a percentage? I don't know that we really
Your
knew.
projection is we're going to be off how much in water billing?
On the water, I thought that we were gonna be on 54,000, $55,000.
Oh, that's all.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Off of last year? No, I'm talking about off of, this is off of last year. Okay, but plan,
We knew that.
right, he was off of, excuse me, you were off of consumption. This is billing. Forget my question. Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, I
Okay.
think we're kind of saying the same thing. We're talking about different types of data or whatever.
All right, no, this is very helpful. Thank you.
So we might be falling a little short on the revenue projections. I also like to focus on how much cash, how many days of cash he
Yeah,
has in reserves.
Me too.
And I thought that was healthy, as David had mentioned, and I was looking back at the Raft Ellis report. They were targeting 150 days when they were developing this rate structure. They were targeting 150 days of cash on hand, and we have 272 as of this year, and projected next year to be 190, and that's for water. And then, of course, sewer is
Yep.
over 600 days. So that's why, we're a little short, but
Not bad.
it's not bad. We still have another set of bills to analyze. And I think I'd say we stay the course and maybe consider our final year's increase, because just to remind everyone, so April 1st, 2021, we had increases of 10.5 on water and 16.5 on sewer. Then 10/1/21, if we, Lynell, if you go to the next slide, it's actually up there. Yeah, so if you zoom there, this is the page from Raft Ellis's report. Yeah, if you could zoom in on that table. So the top line, the 10.5 and the 16.5, that was the change April 1, 2021. The second row in fiscal year 2022, that change happened October 1, 2021, the 11% and 13%. Then 10/1/2022 is the increase, the 10% increase on water, the 12% increase on sewer. Then you see it really tapers off.
Yeah, I'm with you.
It
I
goes
agree.
it goes down to 5, 10/1/2023. It's only 5% increase. And then 10/1/24, it's only 2.5, which 2.5 was like less than what our annual increases were prior to us even going into this. So I think in that last year, we start talking about what type of annual regular increases we have, going forward.
Well, two things we've got to watch, though. I'm totally with you. I agree. We're in an inflationary time now. We weren't when this was done. So we got to take a look at our costs and see what happens.
Right.
If our costs spiral at the 7, 8, 9, 10% level, then we're going to have to hit 23 harder.
Yeah, 5% just seems so low.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you said, when we did this, we had 1% inflation.
So I agree, though, for right now, we stay the
Leave it.
course. I agree. But we may have to get more aggressive in 23. And plus, we'll see what we get hit with on water from Delray in terms of what that increase is going to be.
The sewer.
For
The
sewer,
sewer
yeah, excuse me,
part.
for sewer, not water,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And we'll see what our water, cost of doing business is gonna be.
So Mayor?
Yeah,
Vice
I
Mayor-
remember when we were looking at the Ref Ellis report, it did fluctuate a lot. And I know Marshall said that we did have a very wet winter. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, it'll be interesting to see as the bills come in. It definitely does fluctuate. And so, Linelda, if you can go to the next slide. And if you could zoom in on this. So, and yes, perfect. So, this compares, April and June bills. And I did that because utilization numbers get really good in the data that we got, starting April 2021. So I just kind of wanted to see for the last two. So this is basically just comparing the two bills, April and June for 2022 compared to April and June for 2021. And I guess when going into this, I think we all thought, or at least I definitely thought, it was going to be the single family homes, especially the ones that had the extreme water usage, would be the ones in the best position to really save.
Yeah, I was
Because the
looking,
condos, the individual unit owners, they're not looking at the water bills. So I think when we went into this, we were thinking, because we knew that the water usage, people would be incentivized because of the increase in rates to conserve. But what's interesting is column J shows the water usage, and it's just for April and June bills compared to the prior year. And it was the condos that actually dropped by 15%. Now it's a small snapshot of data. It could just be random noise, but single families actually only dropped 3%. The church, they had a small increase. I guess the hotel had a pretty big increase. Yeah, it was busy, I guess. I guess that was the reason. So I thought that was kind of interesting. That was counterintuitive to me, because I think, David had seen that he had shown in his slides that the water use, the gallons, the consumption had gone down. And so here's just another way to look at it. It seems like a lot of it is coming from the condos. But I just want to point out too, these percentages are getting, they continue to get a little bit better. Condos are paying in a little bit smaller proportionate share in their revenues. And this also, so they're paying in 71%, but they're using 58% of the gallons of water. Single family paying in 24% into the revenues, and they're using 36%. I mean, they're going in the right direction. Like I said, it's never going to be perfect.
here's some crazy numbers here. Look at this is the second segment, April 2021 to July 2021, and then off to the right, April 2021, July 2021. Am I reading this right? It's the same headings?
Yep. So same head. So this is the two bills, April and May and 2022 here. And these are 2021, the prior period. So this is the most current period.
Yeah.
And this is the prior period.
And-
So it's comparing usage, and condos dropped 15% for the
And-
April. May
Okay,
bills.
and now into the left is billed
This is revenues.
revenue.
Yeah.
So if you look at the revenue, look at single family to commercial. The ratio of the two.
So 269 compared to
Yeah.
20.
Now look at the ratio over to the right of the two, single family to commercial.
329
No,
to
go
45.
down.
Oh,
Yeah, no, I'm just going to the right. Now that you got 269,000 and 20,000, or 24% and 2%. Single family, the relationship of commercial to single family on the left
So these are dollars. This is gallons of usage.
Yeah, but
So
it's
single family.
42 to 1
Right.
versus 269 to 20. Something's not right.
So, well, I don't know.
The ratio is, something's wrong with the ratio. The one, the 1146 doesn't hold up.
Because you're saying their usage is not enough
Correct.
to support the, yeah, I don't know. I could
I mean, it's,
show you the rates, but you know.
no, I'm
how it
not,
works out,
I'm
but-
not suggesting you made a mistake here. I'm just suggesting that, you know, it looks as though in other areas, it's running, you know, I don't know, between 8 and 15% of single family. And then all of a sudden here, it's 1,100 to 42,000.
Yeah,
It should be around 4,000, not 1,000.
oh, did I just do that? I don't know. Oh, I don't know how I did that.
Not enough to hold up what we're
Yeah.
looking at here, but there's,
Yeah. I didn't spend too much time digging into, because they were such a small share of the cost. I was more focused on condo and single family and the percentage difference. And, you know,
what's interesting is David pulled about a dozen condos,
the top 10, right?
top 10 condos, and found 2 that were below. So it proves your point. He found the same thing.
Right, right. So, yes, we'll
But it's
see
all-
what happens.
It's got to
going
be in
forward, but-
irrigation. That's the only place
For
that they
sure.
can save. Yeah.
There's no question it has to do with the excessive usage has to all do with irrigation. There's no
I
question.
can attest to in our building, we found leakage in the irrigation. A number of spots where we were leaking.
Right.
And it wasn't for this, we never would have started to look.
So Mayor, Vice Mayor,
Yes.
and when I look at this, I say, we originally were just trying to make this more fair between condos and single families in particular, as well as making sure that we're doing what's right in order to generate the target revenues. It seems to me that a few months ago, we were looking at a $500,000+ kind of loss here, and how are we going to make that up if it stayed on the same track as usage goes? But I think what I'm hearing is that over the last couple of months, usage has now started to climb, and we're not even in season yet, which I would expect it to really climb. And so we expect that we'll be able to recover fairly quickly without having to go through a major rate increase. Is that what I'm hearing?
I'm finding that usage has gone down and it's driven by the condos. So the last 2 bills that we have for 2022, April and June, condo water usage, which is, you know, the bulk of, you know, has gone down 15%.
So
But
why?
that's
So why?
why?
Why
Because I
did the condos drop it
Because
that
I
much?
think they got hit with some pretty high water bills. And as the mayor was saying, it caused them to dig a little deeper into their water usage. And I think the mayor is giving us some anecdotal evidence that, you know, they looked at their sprinkler system and found some leakage and stopped it. And so that
Yeah.
was a big reason why they're,
What was occurring was exactly what Natasha found, is the opposite of what we thought was going to happen.
Yeah.
We thought that the big savings was going to be in the single family, and it's occurring in the condos.
right.
The condos are paying attention to the irrigation.
In which
And
case
the
we
other thing
need
you
to,
said that is not correct, John, is seasonality. There's not a major seasonality. Because if you remember, we pulled the data from a bunch of condos and found a lack of seasonality. And that's because it's driven by the unit charges, the base rate charge. I've got the wrong terminology. What do we call it again, Natasha?
Yeah, base rate.
Base rate charge. That's the majority of the charge for condos. So there really isn't a big seasonality issue here.
so we really need to communicate this to the whole town in terms of how usage has changed, and especially with the condos, because I know some condos, at least Highland Beach Club is saying they saw a major increase, and yet they didn't understand why. And I mean, I don't know, I haven't heard that condos all of a sudden have changed their, irrigation timers and, plans so that they could use less water. I could be wrong on that. That's why I question if that's really the case. I don't know.
David has the example of a few that have. He can share that with you. Maybe you should share that with all of us. Send that chart out to all of us. Just email it if you would.
Mayor,
Yeah,
could I make a suggestion? Following protocol, no disrespect to the vice mayor, but could we adopt this fully? First of all, I'd like to upload these slides to the agenda because this could and possibly have been better served being an agenda item so that we can have an open discussion. It's more productive and following protocol and Robert's rules to have it as an agenda item following with the discussion. And then could we bring back this with the August bills coming in and in view of the finance department's reassessment and really have a good talk through?
sure.
Because I think that's really a great place for this. What came in is
Sure. We'll add it
Natasha's
to the-
superb work.
We'll add it to
Really
the agenda.
paid by the hour, I'm sure she is. If we could follow it that way would be best for everyone. And so the public could see this because this has certainly always been a very looked at public issue.
Yeah, why don't you just email the slides? So, well,
And upload to the
you'll
agenda
email.
for the public. Thank
And
you so
once the
much.
next set of bills come in, then we'll have a full 12
Yeah.
months and that'll actually be better.
This
This
is-
is really just a
is
snapshot,
all-
just to kind of,
Yeah, this, unfortunately, it's all interim data.
yeah, it
So,
really is.
You know,
But
you
we could
can't,
do a deep dive and discussion then and really.
once we have full data, we
Yes.
can clearly make decisions. Right now, it's kind of like trend.
It's interesting.
My other question would be, does the rampant construction in the town of single family, of all resident, does that weigh in any at all with the water rates in terms of their water usage while constructing? There's quite a bit used for, quite a bit used on sites.
Long as
Just
there's,
wondered,
long as there's a meter on it, it's getting charged to somebody.
yeah, there's their meter, hopefully,
Then it gets charged.
hopefully.
I know, for
wondered if that-
example, when we were doing all the work on our balconies, there's a lot of water usage on that. And our rates went up during that time. They dropped down afterwards.
We have 4 homes out of 4 homes on my street alone under construction. It's all good.
Okay.
Oh, no, make
Anything
that
else on,
6.
anything else
It's
on
all
this?
good. No, sir.
Okay, we good to move on? Okay, thank you. by the
You're
way.
welcome. Sure. That
As
was my
usual.
report, nothing else.
Very informative. Oh, my turn.
Yeah.
2 quick things. One, have we made any progress on finding somebody to work on our website to get it up to speed? Marshall?
We're working on that. We're getting close to really start looking into that. Yep. Yes, yes, we're working on it. Yes.
Okay.
Why, find a bunch of
Well,
glaring.
no, it's just so outdated, if you go onto the site, it still has things on it from months ago.
Sure.
Unless I haven't looked at it lately. You're shaking your head means I should look because it's been taken care of. Well, then, thank you, T.
We're making the transition.
Okay,
So we'll start seeing more activity, more active management of the website. Yes.
okay,
Yeah.
thank you then.
Well,
And-
but that also should include, how the screens look on cell phones versus laptops or computers. Because it's a major problem. I know
Yes,
that Teresa's working on it.
Yeah, we got it. We're working on it.
Okay. David, if you could just take a look on, can we go back to page 42 on our data deck, on our slides? On David's presentation, it's 42 on our package. Is that still on your? Oh, well, you don't have to. All right. Yeah. what's the
Yes.
budget? Right.
It's budget slide number 17. Yes.
Right. Oh, there you have it. Just click it back. Oh, here you go. Thank you.
Oh, sorry.
There you go. I'm sorry, Dave, I should have asked you this while you were on it,
No
but I forgot. If we look at the preliminary budget for 2023,
Yes.
we're in at 275.
Yep.
Against your projection of 276.
Yeah.
The first question is why 275 if things are looking good, sales are up? Wouldn't you be projecting more than that?
Yeah. Well,
Like
again,
300 maybe?
my projection was setting a percentage on FY 22. Let me back up. The FY 22 projection is a straight line projection. We get discretionary and all other types of tax revenue from the government in different phases.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so when I looked at what our FY 22 budget was of $225,000, I indexed that one up by $50,000 just to be conservative.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was obviously done during the pandemic. Nobody was going to the stores, you know.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
All right. So you're just being conservative on it then.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
It looks like you'll have upside.
Okay. The other question is the reserves, which was my real question. The reason I wanted to bring it up.
Yes.
What reserves are those and why are they in there?
So
Can you
we, right,
Bring
right.
me up to date on that.
Sure. In discretionary sales tax.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What
Well-
it says from reserves? What reserves are those coming from? And
Right. So where they come from on the next page on slide number 46, right? You can see here, certain projects get canceled, right? Like whether it's a UV protection to town's AC system,
okay.
or certain projects get moved, right?
Yeah.
We just didn't get it. We just didn't get it done. And
Okay.
so what happens is that promotes that cash, because remember, we keep this in a separate fund, right? It's not, and so that money gets just shifted from, oh, you know what, we're not going to spend it in FY 22, we're going to spend it in FY 23. And so that's why it has a fund balance.
So that's just purely a carryover allocation.
That's correct. Yep.
Exactly.
So it's just the misnomer calling it reserves. That's-
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Take care of me. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Okay. That's all I had. Got anything for us, sir?
Last Friday, the Palm Beach County Clerks Association had a very interesting 4-hour conference dealing with election law, chaired by our very own Lynelda. So a shout out to her. She did a great job. Very well organized. There were about 57 or 58 clerks there from around the county. And it just, the supervisor of elections spoke for an hour or so. I spoke a little bit. They had a lot of training that they were providing. And so again, just wanted to recognize Lynelda. And I will say that the overall majority of clerks, their biggest issue is get the canvassing boards to the supervisor and away from us. We don't want to be traveling at midnight. So I promised I would convey that message to all the city councils. And but I also explained to them that there's different reasons that some cities and towns still have their own canvassing boards. So I understand both sides of it, but I did want to fulfill my oath to them. And she did a great job.
Consider it done. Marshall, got anything?
Sure. We covered a lot of it through the meeting. Again, I sent an email out. You should have a draft interlocal agreement that's being reviewed by Glenn and or Alex currently for the Gulfstream. So Jeff and I are comfortable with the current version. So let legal take a look at that. And we should be able to bring that approval to you on the August 2nd date. Also, you have the building recertification stuff we discussed earlier in that email as well. As you also know, this morning, the Inspector General's office was in doing an IT audit. Teresa's not here, so I could thank her, but her and Mark Rutledge from Node IT handled it. They were absolutely amazed, says we're the benchmark of success and government excellence when it comes to IT operations. They actually have said now that they're going to defer to Mark and Teresa for questions on IT platforms and setups and operations, talking about the audit this morning. So everything went well.
Let's hear an applause.
Yeah. So everything went well. They were quite impressed. We may have ruined it, as Mark was saying, for some other towns that get audited because we're not going to be at the same level. But they were very, very complimentary. And really liked our setup and our structure. Everybody else will do it. We've got a new policy that we're going to be putting in place that has a little bit of cybersecurity elements to it, just to bone up. But that they're going to note that as a work done in progress or audit went clean. No problem there. So that was good news. Thank you.
That's it. Anybody else have anything they want to bring up, discuss? No? Okay. If not, it's 4:48 and we will adjourn. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was a minute. Yeah, that was short. That was a March minute. It usually goes a little longer.
Wow. Wow.
People that we're doing it without anything official.